We have here the English Rose, Jovanka with the white pieces against the Dark Destroyer, our one and only David Howe, and they're fighting it out with a Harry variation. It looks fairly even to me. How do you reckon it's going, guys and girls?
I'm liking it. I love testing this new variation in Tau. H4.
Hey, you guys. Home Alone party is over now. I'm back in the studio. And what was this I heard about H4 yesterday?
I think Magnus was having a bit of fun there, wasn't he? You know, punting the H-pawn up the board. It was great to see, and we're going to see more of that today, I think.
Yeah. Let's hope for some more craziness today. It is the final day of preliminaries. Welcome, everyone, to Chessable Masters.
He's taken it.
He's done it.
Behind the computer, Magnus Carlsen.
Yeah.
Rook is under fire. 2 seconds again by Eric. Oh, he made the move. Wow, look at the evaluation bar. Just shot up in Black's favour. Duda could not stand the tension. He took this pawn.
It's going to be checkmate.
Magnus shaking his head.
Has,
Oh, look at the bar.
3 seconds.
1 second.
Has to make a move.
Wow.
This just looks glorious for white. This is my ultimate fancy, getting a position like this one from an opening. Crazy tactics. Prag is just showing off now. It's just a masterpiece.
The winner is young Christian Duda. It is day 4 and final day of preliminaries in Chessable Masters. We started out with 16 players, but after today, 8 of them will leave us and 8 will go through to the knockout stages. Starting tomorrow, quarter-final matches, and then we're going to have the semi-final matches, and eventually the big final to decide the winner of the Chessable Masters. Anish Giri, he is definitely going to play in the knockout stage. He had a great third day in the preliminaries yesterday.
Oh, wow. This is more Jordan. This is more his style, isn't it?
This is really aggressive from Jordan.
And another move that might be surprising. Jordan's going for the ugliest pawn structure award.
I think he's winning that award. Look, doubled isolated pawns here, an isolated pawn here, doubled isolated pawns, and another. Black is going active with his king, but why did he give up this pawn?
Panic.
Oh, I don't know about this move. He's played his rook over, but...
This wins for black now, and there we go, the evaluation bar. Okay, not even that. He's trapped the white rook. Let's go back to the players, because...
What a trick.
The white rook is suddenly trapped. It has no squares to go to. One move, it all turns around, and Anish wins.
Wow, he's gone for a really crazy move there.
Oh.
How is this on his radar? This is why the top players are so good. Gone for a pawn push. Wow, okay. Really interesting by Magnus. I think Magnus has found the moment.
That H-pawn is going to surely just win the day now. I mean...
And I think we're about to see Vidit. Has he just resigned?
He has just resigned.
68.
Move 68.
White's pieces are getting kicked to horrendous squares. I mean, no future that knight now.
And he's done it. He's about to win both white knights, and he's going to emerge with an extra bishop for free, and with the attack. So, yeah, this one is going to be game over any moment. Hare Krishna about to be a clear piece up. We're about to see a result. This will end in checkmate. The white king is not going to escape from this attack. And there we go. Eric resigns.
And Pentala Hare Krishna, he is the player in that crucial 8th place with 15 points. Same score as Aryan Tari, and we also have Vidit, only 1 point behind those two. So, David, what is it about for, especially maybe those players on 15 and 14 points today?
Yeah, it's all about winning, securing their place in the knockouts. It's not going to be easy. Those players in the top 8, especially Hare Krishna in 8th place, he's going to be looking over his shoulder. And all the way down to maybe 11th, 12th place, they still have a chance.
Yeah.
All they need is to win a couple of games in a row.
And for the players then above Pental Hare Krishna, we see Pragnananda and David Anton on 18 points. Do you think they are feeling safe, Simon?
I don't think any of these guys will be feeling safe until the end of the day. I mean, they lose a couple of games, the pressure's going to be on greatly. They've got lots of people biting at their heels there. I mean, Aryan Tari, what a day he had yesterday. It was fantastic recovery to get himself into this position, and very interesting to see if he can continue the form here.
Yeah, winning 3 games yesterday, Aryan Tari. What is it like to get that momentum, do you think, Jovanka, for Aryan today, fighting to qualify for the knockout stage?
You know, he must be on cloud number 9. mind because I have to say, you know, before that he hadn't won a single game in this particular tournament, and then yesterday was there like London buses, 3 came along at once, and of course now he will be feeling like he's on form and that he is in prime shape for the last day in the preliminaries. And you have to remember, 9 points up for grabs.
It's going to be an interesting day. If you also take a look at the standings just one more time, and also talk about those players towards the top of the table. So we did mention Praggnanandhaa there in 7th place. Actually, if this was the final result, we would get a quarterfinal with Magnus Carlsen against Praggnanandhaa. Magnus is in 2nd, but all the way on top of the table, Anish Giri. What do you think of the tournament he's having, David?
Yeah, Anish, quiet, confident, and great chess on the board. It looks like he's in really top form right now, Anish. We saw him yesterday as well. Beat Jordan van Vries, who in the past has been his kryptonite. So Anish will be feeling confident, and we saw in an interview yesterday, he thinks he can win the whole event.
Yeah. And let's take a look at the first games coming up here today. So today we're going to have 3 rounds, the 3 final rounds in the preliminaries to decide who goes through to the knockout stage. And these are the matchups for the very first round today. Erik Hansen against David Anton. We see Jordan van Vries against Pentala Harikrishna. Abhimanyu Mishra against Praggnanandhaa. The 2 youngest players will fight against each other in the first round. Wei Yi against Anish Giri, but we're going to follow Ding Liren against Magnus Carlsen, world number 2 against world number 1. Super exciting. And Simon, have you been impressed with Ding in this tournament?
Yeah, I mean, maybe not as much as I was expecting. I think Wei Yi has really been ruling the Chinese charge, so he's been the one that's impressed me the most. But he's such a dangerous player. This is going to be very exciting, especially with Ding with the white pieces. He has a really good score against Magnus with the white pieces, so he often puts him under pressure. And yeah, this is going to be a good one to start with today.
Yeah, and Magnus looks like he's ready. I know he's tweeted, Jovanka.
He has, you know, he's getting ready for today's big match up. And look at what he's doing. He is paddling into day 4 of Chessable Masters. He's playing, what's it called? Paddleball.
We call it paddle, paddleball, paddle tennis.
Okay.
It's basically a mixture between tennis and squash. And I can tell you, he's very good.
Aha. Playing some paddle, Magnus, in Denmark this tournament, and we will follow his first game against Ding Liren, world number 1 against world number 2. And after that first game, we're going to deep dive into the Najdorf Sicilian opening with Jovanka. I'm really looking forward to that. It is all about openings here in Chessable Masters, and we also, of course, have a question of today.
Yeah, we do. It is the Chessable Masters, and so we are asking, what is your experience with Chessable? And the prize up for grabs, it's a good one as always. This time it's the lifetime repertoire on the Najdorf by Anish Giri. So for those players who like those dynamic, complex games, this one is for you. And as always, you can tweet us using hashtag #ChessChamps.
Absolutely. A course with a value of $310 up for grabs. So please tweet us. And now we are joined again by our stats Superman, Ty Prue-Zimmerman. Thanks for joining us. Hi. Can you hear? Ah, there you are. Good to see you again, Ty. And we've been enjoying so much all your stats on openings this tournament. I know you're doing stats as we go all the time. What openings are we seeing the most in this tournament?
So this tournament has seen a ton of the Sicilian, actually. It was a little rarer through the first 3 events, but scoring fantastic for Black, and Black's playing more of it now. I don't know if that's related or not. But yeah, definitely seeing a lot of Sicilian this time around.
Very cool. And of course, today we're super interested in the stats. Who will qualify? Who will be knocked out? And I know you already tweeted these stats. Can you bring us up to speed? What does it look like for our 16 players?
So we have 7 strong leaders who are all very likely to qualify. Not quite guaranteed. If any of those top 7 go 0 out of 3 today, there's some risk for them. But it's mostly looking like a battle for that 8th spot. And Harikrishna and Vidit have the best chances, but Tari's right there in contention, and with a really good day, someone like Grandelius or Shankland could put themselves in contention for that spot as well.
Wow. Wow, okay. So we do see a couple players on 90%, but I guess then it is about Hare Krishna, Vidit and Aryan Tari. Do you see any hope for Nils and Sam Shankland, for example?
The hope is if they keep winning. If Nils wins all 3 of his games today, he's 97%. If Shankland wins all 3 of his games, he's 96%. So if they just go on a tear, they can certainly control their own destiny. They don't really need help, but they do need to win, win, win.
Exactly. Ooh, it's going to be an interesting day. And you're doing stats on all kinds of things. Ty, is there anything else that has surprised you, fighting chess index or tour rating that has surprised you or that you've noticed in this tournament?
Wei Yi, with his really great start in the first 2 days, actually got to 2,800 in the tour rating.
Really?
2,800 on the dot. And then yesterday, when he lost 2 games, drew 2 others, he dropped back down to 2,745. But he touched that 2,800 mark, which we've been looking at who was going to be the next person to do that for a couple tournaments now. And he was the one. He got there.
Wow. And we also see, of course, world number 2, Ding Liren, his tour rating, 2,776. He's going to play Magnus in the first game. Is there hope for Ding to reach 2,800 in this tournament?
In the tournament, he could certainly get there, especially in the knockouts if he starts beating people like 3-0. He can't get there. He could get there today if he went 3-0, I think. I'd have to double-check his opponents to be sure.
Interesting. All right. Ty, well, it's going to be a dramatic day, so we're going to check in with you after the first game as well. Thanks for joining us.
Absolutely.
Ty, keeping us up to speed on opening stats and stats in this tournament. So we'll be back with him later. But now we're looking forward to the first game between Magnus Carlsen and Ding Liren. Ding with a marathon month, playing 28 games, is now ready for the candidates, and Magnus expects him to be match fit. Finally playing Ding again, what do you expect from him in this tournament?
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see. I think the match we played last time was in the semi-final was of really high quality. And yeah, I expect him to be a very, very tough out whenever I do face him. Hopefully in the knockouts. And
do you think he's going to be very match fit with the marathon of chess games that he has been through?
Yeah, I think it's going to be a bit of both. I think he's going to be in very good shape chess-wise, but he also has the candidates coming up, where he's arguably a top two favorite. So he really needs to have that in the back of his mind as well when it comes to opening selection. But he has such a vast array of knowledge that I think he'll be fine.
Magnus Carlsen, he is playing from Denmark in this tournament. It's going to be 6 o'clock when the first round starts for him, but for Ding in China, it's going to be midnight when he starts his game against Magnus. And these two, as Magnus mentioned, they did play a semi-final match against each other in Charity Cup a couple of months ago, and that was a really interesting match. Ding really put up a good fight, David.
Yep, it was very close. Here we can see one of the games where Ding was just 1 or 2 moves away from pushing the world champion right to the edge, but eventually Magnus got there. It was close, but he was too good.
Mm-hmm. And Simon, does it seem like Magnus really enjoys playing these top players, that he's looking forward to exactly this game?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I think Magnus really thrives when he's playing people he considers are his main rivals, and I think he's always thought that about Ding. He's always considered Ding to be a big rival of his, along with maybe only a couple of other players in the world. So I'm sure this will be a game he's really up for.
Yeah. It's going to be fun. Ding with the white pieces in this one. He is ready. Magnus Carlsen with the black. So we're not going to see any h4 then probably in this first game.
No, I definitely don't think so. I don't think he will be able to take those big risks that he takes with the black pieces. But yeah, I'd like to kind of like reinforce that. I do think it's going to be an epic battle today. I mean, I recall in the Charity Cup that when they did play each other in the preliminaries, it was Ding that won, I think. But in the semi-final matchup, both of the players just elevated their game, and they played an incredible match.
Yeah, I remember.
It was a really high level of chess, and when you consider how quickly the time control, how quickly they were making the moves and the fast time control, I was just astounded.
Yeah, I think it depends on the players' focus today. I mean, they both know they're pretty much qualified. How hard is it to throw everything, give all your energy into a game that maybe doesn't matter so much for the standings? It also depends on Magnus's opening choice. With black, it's so hard to freestyle and just kind of push your h-pawn up the board, do something a bit weird and wacky. I think Magnus respects Ding too much for that, but also it would backfire if he does get too brave. Ding is just too strong to not punish Magnus if he is a bit flashy in the opening. So I think the first few moves of this game will be very, very exciting to watch. And, okay, Ding starts with the English opening.
Yeah.
Not his typical 1d4. Remember, Ding, with the candidates next month, he has to hide some of his preparation. He doesn't want to reveal exactly what he's going to do in the opening. And, okay, Magnus plays g6, which is actually quite a solid move. It's got a firm idea behind it. Black's bishop wants to go to the g7 square onto the long diagonal. And
well, now it may be not so solid, as in we could get a Grunfeld or a King's Indian defence. And the King's Indian defence, we were talking about Gwain's great course that he's done for Chessable on this opening, and that was the prize yesterday. But this can lead to extremely double-edged, exciting play. Not the way Ding's played it, though.
Okay.
But this is okay. But again, maybe he's saving his preparation here with such a move.
Yep, it's clear that Ding doesn't want to tell his future opponents next month in the candidates exactly what he's going to do in the opening. Ding here has just chosen a very modest, very calm way of developing. You see White's bishop has just moved, maybe not to the most active square, but the pawn push in front of that White bishop, that's not regarded maybe as the most challenging setup for White. It's still popular. It's still kind of geared towards getting a really rich, double-edged, tense middle game, but this is not what Ding normally does. So, okay, now we will see Magnus with a double fianchetto, both of Black's bishops on long diagonals, and Ding almost moving, I mean, making the pieces levitate. It looks like he hasn't even flinched. The pieces just flying forward, though.
This is the power of the mind. Use the Jedi Force.
What is quite curious about this opening that Ding has played is that it doesn't look like it's the most dangerous opening. But checking out the database, I can see that actually it's been pretty dangerous players who've handled it with the white side. It's been a favourite of Mamedyarov, Nakamura, Fabiana Caruana. And actually now they're into a game that Ding himself has played before. This one was in 2022, just now, in the Huangzhou tournament. Ding won in a big, long game. David, you'll be proud.
Yeah, I'd be proud of the long games. But the thing is, White's not necessarily going for a winning advantage anytime soon. White's not playing for the attack. White's just trying to steer the game into kind of a really tense position. Notice how all the pawns, all the pieces are on the board, and it's likely to stay that way for a while. Meanwhile, Ding, with this last pawn push, trying to gain as much space as possible. And Magnus challenging the white pawns. I'm surprised by this one. I think that white pawn that is now under fire from Black's A pawn is just going to push up the board. There we go. And White has gained a lot of space now. Magnus, meanwhile, just pushing a pawn, getting ready to develop that black knight. That black knight that's sitting at home needs a square to go to. It's a bit dominated right now. And here we go. Ding does indeed develop.
Yep.
This one is going to be a real manoeuvring game for the next few moves.
I agree, and both, I don't think we're in known territory at the minute. OK, there's just been 2 games, but Ding has deviated from his earlier game in 2022. And I'm actually quite liking this for White, you know? Pushing pawns, taking space. It's my favourite thing.
It's a very solid position for black, though. I mean, this kind of resembles a lot of positions you can get from the Nimzo Indian and openings like that. And but in those openings, you don't have this bishop in front of the king, which black has here. Black has this double fianchetto structure. And, you know, I don't think Magnus will be too unhappy here, at least, because he's got no weaknesses. Yeah. He's got a lack of space, but he's got nothing obvious to attack. But, of course, white is a little bit easier to play because, yeah, he's got more space. And having more space means easier game.
And I think it's just about coming up with plans here. We will see the players slow down because here white would love to, for example, push even further forward, gain even more space, create this beautiful pawn centre. But I'm not sure he should rush because suddenly black would just block up the centre. Suddenly there's a bit of tension between these two pawns. If white continues doing what he would normally do, for example, push forward, then suddenly this side of the board, the queen side, is just completely locked down. Look at all these pawns. They've just completely blocked each other up. And actually, in this type of position, it's normally black who attacks on the right half of the board. So this would favour Magnus. For example, the black knight would come to the side. At some point, black would start pushing forward. This is actually transposing towards a King's Indian. It's like a mishmash of all these different types of openings.
Really?
Simon mentioned the Nimzo. It's got qualities of the Nimzo Indian. It's got qualities of the King's Indian. It's got qualities of the Hippo defence. It's like everything just thrown together in a hybrid. So
these players, they know it's Chessable Masters. They know we're talking about openings.
Yeah, and they're definitely just using all the patterns they recognise from all these different openings, trying to put them together. And that's why Ding, I think, has hesitated. He doesn't necessarily want to rush pushing pawns forward because then it makes things easier for black. Yeah, so I'm expecting white's bishop, the dark square bishop that hasn't moved, maybe just to vacate the first rank. When in doubt, just connect your rooks, bring the rooks towards the centre, and then you'll be ready for the action.
Yeah.
Okay.
I guess you just got to decide where that bishop goes when you're playing with white here. I mean, it's a normal thing to think about. You want to put your pieces when you're bringing them out in the best squares possible. I'd be tempted to go like A4, use that pawn 2 squares forwards. Maybe we could show that, and maybe even put the bishop on this square. But I wanted to have my pawn in front of that, that one. But maybe saving that for the knight. Normal manoeuvres still going on, David. And is Magnus going to push in the centre with that pawn move at some point, maybe, anyway?
Yeah, I think both sides now are ready after this last couple of rook moves. Now white's rook opposite the black queen. It means that black won't be comfortable if the position opens. And as Simon mentioned, Magnus here would love to, for example, push forward his central pawn. But he has to calculate. Suddenly, white has the option of pushing his pawn forward, and suddenly it's chaos. This pawn's looking at this one, this pawn's looking at this one. But white is the one with threats pushing forward now to attack 2 pieces at the same time. And the reason I'm thinking this requires calculation is, for example, if black captures this pawn, white would be happy to recapture. Suddenly, remember this rook looking down at the black queen. I think this one's going to turn out quite well for white. After another capture, for example, white's bishop, I think there's a better move even, but white's bishop, for example, could take this pawn, utilising the fact that this black knight is pinned. Black's knight cannot go and capture the bishop because the black queen would drop behind it. So already it looks like a really quiet position if we retreat, if we kind of rewind back to the position that Magnus is thinking about, but things will burst into life just in the case of one move. For example, if Ding gets the opportunity to push this pawn, suddenly it's going to become really, really double-edged.
Wow.
So I think the critical moment is maybe even now or in the next couple of moves.
Wow, how cool. And it's a critical moment in the tournament for so many players. So we are keeping an eye on many of the games going on here in round 13, especially Vidit, Aryan Tari. They are right outside top 8. And those 2 are fighting to qualify. Pentala Harikrishna is the player in 8th place, now playing against Jordan van Foreest. And Pragnananda, he is in 7th and now playing the youngest player in the tournament, Mishra, the 13-year-old against the 16-year-old, paying attention to that one as well. But this one, between Magnus, he is in 2nd, and Ding, only 1 point behind Magnus. They will qualify for the knockout stage, but it's always important to be as high on the table as you possibly can.
Yeah, and they both look really focused, to be honest. They both look, I mean, they're basically mirroring each other's body language a moment ago, both of them just covering their faces. And
maybe Ding is one of the players. I know Magnus has publicly said only Ali Reza Firouzja is the person he will play, but I'm kind of thinking like Ding might be another one, that if Ding does win the candidates, I think Magnus be like, yeah, this guy's a good rival. I might play. So I'm kind of like, you know, he kind of wants to play these top players, and you can sort of see that here, can't you? I mean, he's really dedicated, even when there's big football games going on elsewhere, you know, which he loves his football.
They've got the exact same hand hand gesture over their faces right now.
Wow.
I mean, they're just mirroring each other. Oh, Ding just changing it up there, but yeah, I mean...
Oh, in a second.
Oh, he's...
In a second, some psychology going on here.
Can they see each other? I don't think they can they?
They can see each other.
They can, oh, right. But,
they can opt to, but they can opt to kind of minimise the webcam as well. Right. Normally, I don't think Magnus looks at his opponents unless he's kind of checking in on them at a critical moment or... Okay,
maybe we can copy,
Yeah.
Let's
we got to get in the vibe.
Grandmaster.
So this is what you got to do to become a strong player. Just copy their face, their hand
copy,
movements.
You're basically saying that you're
it's the
more
psychological.
Submissive.
That's another Jedi trick.
But who's copying who? That's the question.
Well, you know, because the Ding actually brought the fingers to the mouth, and Magnus copied. So.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Okay, now there are two hands in front of the face. Will Magnus do the same? Big question.
It's tense, though, isn't it? I mean, you don't normally see Magnus this tense in a game of chess when he's playing online. And, we can see he's now pushed out in the middle. But it's kind of like you were saying, David. It doesn't seem like there's a lot going on. It's kind of like, I don't know, I guess you could call it an iceberg position, because it's like you can see the top of the iceberg, but there's so much. There's a massive iceberg below the water with all the pieces just ready to come to life. But I like Magnus's last move. And if I was black here, I would love to push that pawn one square forwards and do a typical attack that actually Bobby Fischer made very popular in these types of positions. And if you've got Bobby Fischer's book, My 60 Memorable Games, he's got a couple of victories where he plays this kind of idea. And yeah, David, maybe show...
Just to show, for example, if white just plays a quiet move, if black does establish this pawn in the centre of the board, I think it was you, Simon, you said this pawn cuts the board in half in a way, and now black can focus his attentions, for example, starting to throw Harry the H-pawn down the board. I know Magnus wouldn't hesitate from this. And look at the white king. It actually has very few defenders around it. All of the defenders for white now, they're all on the other flank. They're all on the opposite side of the board. So that's normally a signal to attack. And as Simon mentioned, this has definite similarities to other openings, especially the King's Indian attack. Not the King's Indian defence, it's when white establishes a King's Indian attack, and Bobby Fischer, one of the connoisseurs of that. I know Magnus played that a lot in his youth. It's all about getting a pawn to this square, backing it up with all your pieces. Note how many pieces defend this black pawn. Is it 4 pieces? And as long as you can keep this pawn here, then you cut the board in half and you can go for the white king. Also, white's queen is stuck on the wrong half of the board here. She can never kind of jump across and save her king later on, nor can the white knights. So a bit of a positional threat. This move, if Magnus gets it, I think he's going to be very, very happy. So can Ding stop that? That's the question. If he takes pawns off in the centre of the board, then black will say, OK, I'll trade, I'll recapture with the knight. And if we see some exchanges, suddenly I like black again. Black's bishop is phenomenal on this diagonal. And white's pawns are completely stuck. These pawns can never push forward.
Saying that, though, I mean, if black does push that pawn forwards, it's kind of position you don't often see Magnus play, because he has to really go all in for the kingside attack. I mean, we know he's very capable of doing that, but he doesn't tend to enjoy those all-in attacking positions as much as other people would.
When he was younger, he played those types of systems a little bit, but you're right, he went away from them. He doesn't necessarily want to kind of take too much risk.
Like, one thing I have noticed is that the computer will, in those type of positions that you highlighted with the black pawn being on the e4 square, the computer will actually say white is much better, because the computer is such a great defender. But in terms of a human player, well, it's a very scary attack to face. And the only way that white can meet it, and he's taken the pawn. I mean, it just goes to show that he was worried. I wonder whether he's now going to just stick a knight into the centre of the board. That's maybe what I would do.
Must be his idea, mustn't it, to counter-attack in the middle there, I guess.
Yeah, I don't think white should rush to trade off pieces here, because the more pieces that come off the board, I think just black has no weaknesses at all. I don't think black's going to be in any... Magnus is not going to be concerned if all of the knights leave the board, for example. So, Jovanka, you mentioned a knight coming into the centre. Which one? There's a choice of 2. Do you mean this knight coming to block black's pieces in, or do you mean keeping these knights on the board, not trading, instead dodging the trade? And this knight looks pretty good.
Yeah, I must admit, I only saw one knight, and it wasn't the one going to the fourth row. Okay. I only saw the knight hopping into the middle of the board.
Yeah, I would be very hesitant, I don't know, after the black bishop takes, after a recapture, for example, if we do see a trade. At the moment, black does have this weakness, this backward pawn, which can never move, otherwise it just gets captured. But if black can defend it somehow, I'm not sure exactly how, but for example, just putting a rook on this square, or even temporarily this one, if black can now get a knight round to this outpost, I don't think black's ever worse, but he's played it. He's played it, Ding.
He's gone in.
Yeah, he's gone in, so we could be headed towards a position like this one. Black's queen was under fire, so the knight had to be removed, and exactly what we just showed, actually. All black needs to do, I think, to be okay is to transfer his knight to this outpost to block up. You need to block up and plug this open file where your target is. Okay, Magnus takes a step back with his queen. The reason you can't do this immediately, drop back with the knight, is because white's queen can suddenly take this pawn. It's undefended, and that's why black drops his queen back first, defending the pawn, and now his plan next move is to bring his knight back. It's all about whether black's knight can get round.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's some dangers, isn't there? I mean, like, you could maybe show that on the analysis board a little bit more that, you know, normally when you're playing these positions as white, you want to exchange off the fianchettoed bishop of your opponent. So let's say you go bishop back to b2. You know, this is kind of a normal idea. Get rid of the bishop in front of my opponent's king. But now if the knight goes back, these pieces get exchanged. I mean, that knight, after one more move, let's say white plays something, look at that knight and look at white's bishop. In this case, white's bishop would be very bad, but...
When in doubt.
When in doubt.
What should you do?
Push the Harry pawn.
Yeah, I love it.
I just don't
actually,
understand.
I don't like it.
You don't like it?
I don't like it, but, you know.
I'm not convinced, but maybe. I mean, why not? You know, I mean, I get asked this quite a lot. People say, when do you push the H-pawn? You know, when do you push it? And the answer is always, no, it's not. But Magnus is trying to prove that. But it is when normally your opponent has that fianchetto structure. So you've got a target to attack. So you can see that pawn now coming up, and it's kind of attacking black's king side a little bit. It's a bit of a nuisance. So this is normally when you push the H-pawn, if anyone's wondering.
I think in the past, the reason it wasn't such a popular idea, pushing the pawn up the board, is because often it would be linked with, for example, a trade and then trying to use the open line. But that's not so effective. It takes a long, long time for the rook to kind of occupy the open H line. But the reason it's so popular nowadays is because in a position like this, you actually leave it here as long as possible. And later, if, for example, you can get the pawn up to this square, then you, in an endgame, you cage in the black king, and there are all kinds of mating ideas. But meanwhile, a few moves on the board. We have seen a queen trade. If we just backtrack, the black queen came out and actually offered this trade. And after the queen trade, I don't know. I think black should just be solid enough. No real weaknesses in the current position.
Ding also pushed his G-pawn. Why did he only push it one square, not two, to support the H-pawn?
Yeah, I think you're right, Kai. He might push it later. He pushed this pawn forward while queens were on the board, so maybe he thought if the pawn went 2 squares forward, the white king would be a bit open.
Okay.
So now that queens have left, just over the last couple of moves, maybe later we'll see the pawn continue pushing. But meanwhile, let's go back to the players. A lot of moves, but we're almost in the endgame now, and I just don't really see a plan for white other than pushing pawns. Black's knight is just too strong at the moment.
Magnus has played super fast. He still has almost 14 minutes left on his clock after 25 moves. It is definitely Ding doing the thinking so far.
Yeah, I actually think that Magnus is simply satisfied with the draw. And Ding doing something I did not expect.
Well, David did mention this, didn't he? This is like the modern way to play. And
Yeah.
I did this course recently for Chessable. It's called the sort of H-pawn idea against the king's in defence. And one thing I found really strange is that a lot of top players are putting that pawn there. Praganan is one of the players. Prag, he was doing this a lot as well. And it's just having those chances later on. But, you know, it does look quite equal here, doesn't it? I mean, you have to probably exchange that knight off at some point. And I say that, and he's going for another plan.
Yeah. Ding loves his bishops. I think, I mean, a lot of top players, they love their bishops, especially when they're in a pair. Ding loves it more than anyone. And yeah, the reason I think we're both surprised is that black's knight is just too strong. Black's knight is on an outpost, can never, ever get kicked away by a pawn. And it has a lot of influence, actually, the black knight, not only blocking the white rooks, but kind of controlling some central squares. Then again, white's bishops, if you can somehow trade off the rooks, maybe then they'll come to life a bit later.
This is the one plan, isn't it, that White's got. White can use his pawn majority, and this is something always worth looking at. I mean, White's got more pawns on the king side than Black has, so you can try pushing them at some point. And the only way I think that White's going to be able to do anything, though, is by pushing the e-pawn at some point. I don't see how he's going to manage to ever do that. So, but possibly a bit easier for White to play here.
Definitely. I mean, Black's a bit stuck, right? So Magnus just moving the Black king there. Just to show your point there, Simon, eventually we're going to see a lot of manoeuvring now, but eventually White's only winning plan is to push this pawn forward. But I mean, this square is covered 4 times by Black's pieces. So somehow you need to kind of move your bishop out the way, push the pawn next to it. It just takes a long time, and you always have to worry about this pawn in the centre of the board.
Magnus is just waiting.
Magnus,
you know, he's obviously happy with the draw, which you would be here. I mean,
so he's just moving his king back here, and then he's moving it back and back again, and just waiting. Meanwhile, we should point out that Magnus can't really take this pawn. It's defended sufficiently, but after a set of trades here, suddenly it's not about trading rooks. It's about the fact that Black's rook has left the defence of this pawn. So suddenly White would take, and it's not just that, but all of the pawns are on dark squares, easy targets for White's bishop. So that's why Magnus is reduced to just waiting with the Black king. So the question is, can Ding improve? It might take a long, long time. Maybe you can, I was about to say, move the king out the way somewhere. Next move, you step your bishop back out, or for example, if Magnus waits, you step the, he does that. And for example, if Magnus continues to wait, you need to find the right moment to push this pawn forward to support a push in the centre. But
do you think Magnus is literally just going to move the king backwards and forwards? Because that would be, I don't think I've ever seen that. I know it's a good plan because he's got his pieces to optional squares, but literally just moving the king backwards and forwards while your opponent can do whatever he wants is strange, right?
Definition of a fortress, right? You know, just shuffling the king. But you know, it's actually difficult to recommend doing anything else.
It really
I mean, you can't push a pawn.
No.
You can't move your knight. You can't move your rooks.
Yeah.
Why not?
Agree. Yeah. He's just got to wait. I mean, that can't be too much fun, just sitting there. So
I'm hoping we're going to see a 100-move game. Ding just waits for 30 moves while Magnus brings his king back and forth and then slowly pushes a pawn, then wait another 30, 40 moves, push a pawn. This is a dream position for Ding.
Well, you know, it would be a good learning experience. And whilst the king is shuffling backwards and forwards, or sideways rather, well, we do have a quiz of the day where we're asking, what is your experience with Chessable? Chessable's all about learning. And Sunny Doobie says that my experience with Chessable has been in a very committed relationship since ages, with closeness, support, mutual understanding, improvements, and acceptance of my strengths and weaknesses.
Oh,
what a great answer.
Yeah.
And Vegetaris gives us a very honest answer. He says, my experience with Chessable is to use the free stuff. Of course. Especially Simon Williams courses. Perfect when I can
get your wallet out and buy some of my stuff. I've got to feed myself. Stop downloading the free stuff. Come on. God, blimey.
If you want to enter our quiz of the day, then you can tweet us using the hashtag #ChessChamps.
Yes, for a chance to win Anish Giri's course on the Najdorf Sicilian. Great course, valued at over $300, so a great price today. And the king, well, it keeps going sideways.
Yes, and meanwhile, Ding has actually repeated the position once. So this is actually the second time we've seen this position. If we see Ding just drop the light squared bishop back, or the second time we've seen this position as well. OK, Ding is playing for the win. He's moving his king back. I'm not sure where that white king is going, but it's going somewhere. And meanwhile, Magnus does not care at all. He's just moving the black king.
Would you have some fun if you were Ding and just move your king, like, first of all, to the left,
Zigzag
and then move it to the right, and then, you know, push a pawn?
We'll just move the white king to one corner and then the other corner.
Maybe you could break that record, right? Just 200 and...
David would love this position so much. he would move every piece and get to move 49, and then he'd play this move.
We have a pawn. You know? We have a pawn move.
All right.
He could, yeah. I mean, I can see David literally could playing 49 moves, because after 50 moves, it's a draw if you don't make a pawn move. Playing this move, waiting another 49 moves, playing A3, another 49, going A4. I could just, you know, and Magnus just moving the king backwards and forwards.
Yeah, so I'm disappointed Ding did push this pawn. As Simon mentioned, you could wait 49 moves, push this one, 49 moves later, push this pawn, 49 moves later, push this one, 49 moves later, push this one, and we'd easily get to move 300. But Ding actually has a specific idea in mind. By pushing this pawn forward, he's protected his stronghold in the centre. This is a nice pawn chain now, and look at what's happened. After Magnus moved his king, the white bishop has actually found a great diagonal. I'm not sure what it's doing. It's hitting thin air, but it does control a lot of squares, takes away from those squares from black's pieces. So meanwhile, Magnus continues to wait. Ding is continuing to play with his king. At some point, remember, he's going to maybe move this bishop out the way. Maybe even now, he's in this position, he's going to move his bishop out the way, move the rook to the centre, somehow support his pawns, and start pushing these guys forward. Takes a long, long time to arrange, but he's got all the time in the world. On the board, at least. On the clock, he's down 10 minutes almost, but here he's just moving the white king back and forth to gain a few seconds every turn.
Right. I did wonder whether Magnus could get ambitious, and say, well, you did, push the f-pawn, and therefore maybe allow me some opportunity to kind of break open the centre. But OK, this involves moving the bishop out of the way.
For example, in the current position, or something like this, and then trying to push this pawn to open up the black rooks.
Threaten it.
I mean, it would be very brave for Magnus to do this. He's shown no indication of trying to of trying to win this game.
I think the problem with this is maybe the bishop hits the rook, and then you're committed to moving that pawn maybe at some point, are you? I mean, I guess you could move the rook, but it's a little bit risky, isn't it?
For example, if you push this pawn, blocking your own bishop in the corner, white can just happily retreat at some point, and this is a dead piece. So maybe possible, but it comes with a risk. I think that's why Magnus said no more risk, just clear plan. He can almost pre-move.
Do you reckon he has pre-moved the next 50 moves? And he's just gone to make himself a cup of tea or something. He's just literally, pre-moved, right, 50 moves in a row, I'll just go and have a, you can't do that.
There's some danger, though, because there could...
It could change.
It could be bishop takes knight.
Bishop takes knight, yeah. Then it'd be like,
oh dear.
And I've seen David, that happened to David enough times sitting next to him in bullet chess, so, yeah.
Few moves going wrong. Well, Ding Liren, he is fighting for the win, and he is ready for the candidates. We've talked about that. Candidates will start mid-June. And there is a story on chess24.com. Ding's thoughts on eventually making it to the candidates, becoming world number 2, and playing those 30 games that he had to play to qualify. And you can read that story. Apparently, he has booked his ticket to Madrid, where the candidates will be played.
Has Magnus's camera frozen?
Oh.
A few moments ago, just before Ding moved, Magnus had the exact amount of time he started the game with. So on move 42, Magnus still had over 15 minutes, but...
Maybe frozen, yeah. So
okay.
Well, he's gone for Jovanka's idea. So,
no, but that was just... I wasn't really being that serious.
Well, you're going to have to go with it now. So, I mean, I was actually thinking, I'm probably not David, but if it was me or you, Vanka, and Magnus was playing black against us, just because David's a lot harder.
Well,
and he's gone for it.
He's gone for it. Well,
wow.
Why is this so wow?
Because he could have just moved the king backwards and forwards, but this is Magnus saying, "Hey, I'm going to take risks."
Is he going to try to win this game as well?
Well, but he might even be trying to.
He might be worsening his position in the process. Look at this black rook; it's actually lacking squares. You've got to be really careful now as black.
I mean, it's nearly trapped, that rook, isn't it? So it's quite risky, this play.
I mean, it's just inconsistent, right? He spent 15 moves just. King, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, doing nothing. And then suddenly, maybe he's looking at Ding's clock time. Maybe he's realising, OK, this is the moment to go for it. Ding is down under 4 minutes. Magnus almost at 15. So 11 extra minutes on the clock. Maybe he thinks Magnus, even if things go wrong, he's still pretty solid. He can still calculate his way out of trouble. And, I mean, things are about to open up. Maybe we can jump in to show why Magnus is playing for the win, how he's playing for the win. It was all about pushing this pawn forward. The idea is to crack open a line for the rooks, but I don't really know what he's doing for the with those black rooks. For example, if white takes this pawn, it looks like the black rook can come down and give a check, but it's just one check. The white king can step back, and suddenly you've lost a pawn, and the black king is a bit open. For example, pawn takes pawn, and white will recapture. 2 good bishops, white's rook as well, are ready to swing across and attack the black king.
And look at the h-pawn. I mean, this is one of those cases where you put the pawn on this square, you get it all the way out there. It might not seem obvious what it's doing, but then, as soon as the position opens up, it suffocates your opponent's king. And pawn takes pawn looks like a really good move to me, because you've got the bishops, you want to open them up, and he can still play it
He can
after
still
this
play it
move.
next move. White's bishop dropping back, hitting the black rook, and if we see the black rook retreat, then I think Ding would be very tempted to capture this pawn, as we just showed. But the question is, does Magnus have the time to play pawn takes pawn here, giving up some material? But after bishop takes rook, I mean, there's no time to flick in a check, unfortunately. But for example, if black captures this piece back, we could see a situation where black will try and set up a barricade on the dark squares. White only has this kind of poor, blocked-in, light-squared bishop, no influence on the dark squares, but white does have an extra rook for the black knight. Maybe at some point we'll see the white rooks occupy this open line and break through. No, Magnus doesn't go for this. He retreats, so we might see this on the board. White is about to go one pawn up. Pawn takes pawn, and the position opens up, I think, in Ding's favour. Can Magnus activate his rooks? That is the question. Can he find sufficient counterplay against the white king?
I don't see it. I really don't see it. It's just a
one
check, and that's it. The king steps back. Nothing left.
Unless he tries to bring his rook across and then bring the other rook down to the second rank.
Ooh, but that's so risky.
So risky. For example, let's just ignore everything white's doing and okay, maybe the black rooks can come into the game like this, but let's go back to the position, because this is the second time we've seen this position now.
Oh.
Ding only has 2.5 minutes. If he wants to win, he'll take this pawn. If he wants to draw, he'll just drop his bishop back and attack the black rook.
2 minutes left on the clock for Ding, 14 minutes left for Magnus. And how is Ding when clocks runs down and it's blitz chess? Bullet chess even.
He's good at blitz, but he does panic a little bit more than Magnus. He doesn't play as much online. I don't think he's as quick on the mouse. Over the board blitz, he's very, very good.
Yeah.
We've seen him do well in the tour in blitz as well, but Magnus is maybe another level.
Okay.
So let's go back to the players. Will he drop his bishop back and go for the draw? Or is he going to play pawn takes pawn and go for the win under 2 minutes?
I guess the longer he thinks about it, the more likely he is to go for the drawish.
Yeah.
What do you think, Simon?
Well, he's gone for a draw,
he's
and
gone for it.
I think the tournament situation, I mean, a draw, they both qualify. It's. I mean, okay. I mean, I think David would have definitely gone for the win there, no matter what. But I mean, it's kind of sensible as well with 2 minutes.
Yeah.
I mean,
I would have gone for the win and then lost. so that's why Ding is the world number 2.
yeah. I mean, it's a practical choice, isn't it? And I think they'll be shaking hands soon. But
In terms of the tournament situation, it makes sense to play it safe, but
can he still? So he can still go pawn takes pawn. I thought it'd be a draw automatically now, but this is his last shot.
now it is. There we go. Third time we've seen that position, it is a draw.
A draw between world number 1 and world number 2, Ding and Magnus. And maybe in a couple of months we will see them play each other in a world championship match if Ding is able to win the candidates. But all the drama going on here in round 13, so we are going to jump into another game. Some players really fighting hard to qualify for the knockout stage, and these are 2 of those players, Vidit and Aryan, both of them right outside top 8, so a win here would be great news. And look at the bar for Aryan.
Whoa, we've jumped into a crazy position. I'm just doing a quick count. It's level material, but there's a massive threat on the board. White is threatening checkmate in one move. And look at Vidit. Yeah, look at Vidit. He's so stressed right now. It's such an important game for both of them. And the checkmate threat was White's queen in the centre of the board going out to the h7 square. Black has pushed a pawn to block any infiltration from the white queen, but
what a position.
Chess is hard. I mean, look how
what a position.
Worried Vidit is.
So why does the bar go down with this move by Aryan?
Maybe there was better.
Okay.
Black could have actually grabbed a knight, tried to win some material, but those 2 white knights, they look nice and pretty. I don't think you want to take it or touch either of them because you only open up lines for white's rooks.
And what is it with Norwegian internet? Or Danish, or maybe Norwegian and Danish. Scandinavian internet. Yeah, I mean, you thought you guys would have good internet by now.
We do.
Yeah, it doesn't seem to be working very well today. So,
good point.
You know, strange.
Yeah.
But,
He looks happy.
he looks he looks happy.
And well, he is happy, right? He ended the day with 3 wins yesterday, Aryan, after a tough start to the tournament. And those 3 wins did get him into contention for the quarterfinals. He needs to keep winning today, though. And I guess it's looking good for him, but it's difficult.
No, well, there's a big threat on the board,
This
right?
last move is so clever.
Huge threat. You know, the knight is threatening to give a check on the c3 square.
Yeah, so for example, if white continues his attack, for example, pushes a pawn forward, trying to break open the black king, then it's just too slow. Black's attack arrives first, as Jovanka mentions. And talk us through this, Jovanka. It's a check.
Yeah.
Hitting the king, hitting the queen.
Hitting the queen, and that's called a fork, so you should take that knight. But after pawn takes knight, there will be pawn takes pawn, and that is another check coming white's way. And once the white queen moves to whichever square, actually, well, the queen will come to the b2 square, and unfortunately, that is the kiss of death, and it's checkmate.
Yeah, that's checkmate. So this is a winning threat on the board right now. The knight jumping into this square with a check. White would have to give up the rook for it, but it wouldn't be enough. Black's attack would continue. It would rage on. So this knight jump is a massive threat. For example, if the white king runs into the corner, then there might also be a secondary idea of just taking off white's knight. White now can recapture and open a line, but it still takes 2 or 3 moves to actually threaten any checkmates. So Aryan here, it feels like he should have sufficient time to distract white or defend the black king. I mean, still really complicated, to be honest. Still super scary for both kings. White's king under threat, as we showed by that black knight. Black's king under threat along this open line. But, at least temporarily, black has the move and black has the extra piece. It should be winning, at least according to the evaluation bar. But now both players are around 2 minutes. It's still anyone's game. So, yeah, current position is this one. For now, Vidit has to deal with this massive threat, this knight check.
And ticking down to a minute. He is under 2 minutes on the clock now, Vidit.
I was looking at this particular pawn structure and I was thinking, this looks like something I could find myself in a Caro-Kann. And it is. It comes from the Caro-Kann opening.
Yeah, Aryan Tari, a big expert on the Caro-Kann.
Ah. And the game between Shankland and Grandelius just finished with a win for Nils Grandelius, the Swede. It's not going to be easy for him to qualify, but if he wins all his games today, there's a chance.
Oh, the fireworks continue. Just when we thought that White had to make some defensive moves.
But does it stop your threat? I mean,
I'm not sure it creates a threat.
But does it do anything? It looks quite scary. 2 double knights there on the right.
I mean, these 2 white knights are on a suicide mission, both of them trying to force black to capture. Both of these knights actually up for grabs. Black can take this knight with this pawn. Black can take this knight with the other pawn. But actually, I don't really see the threat for white. The knights look nice and pretty, but it's just one check. It's just one check, and black's king can move. And as you guys mentioned, it doesn't stop black's threat at all. Knight check. Pretty much, there we go. It's on the board. Pretty much wins the game.
Yeah.
As we showed, pawn takes knight, and this will end in checkmate, this discovered check. So white's rook has to recapture, and now black is threatening checkmate. It just looks crushing.
Can we see Vidit's reaction?
Yeah, let's see Vidit's reaction.
He looked incredibly
Has he missed this
stressed.
one?
yeah, he couldn't have missed this move, surely. I mean, it's
He's
incredible.
shaking his head.
But it was so basic, and it wasn't disguised, that threat.
Yeah,
maybe he just missed that this check is not deadly. Black's king now can just move.
And can I just ask, is Niels's camera working, or is it really a Scandinavian thing?
Yeah, we should check that.
We should check, because otherwise, it's,
Good point.
And this threat of checkmate now on the board, I mean, black's king is pretty safe. There's one trick maybe that Vidit missed, the knight coming back to check the black king. Here, black does have one safe square. You can't take this knight now because of checkmate. Suddenly, white's attack is the first to break through. But instead, you dodge the knights, you ignore the gifts, you hide in the corner, and no more threats. And yeah, it's just game over. This checkmate is coming. If the pawn moves, then black, at the very least, can jump in with his queen and reinstate this threat of checkmate. It's game over. Vidit about to crash to defeat. This is a huge win for Tari.
Yeah.
Under the circumstances.
I think this might put him in the qualification zone as well, because he's only 1 place below. So a win here would be really important for the tournament situation for him. And what a great result
Is
it
that
would be
a
if he
4th
can
win in a
qualify.
row?
Yes.
Wow.
4th win in a row, and he's doing what needs to be done. He's just taking the opportunities that are presented to him.
And he needs to, of course, pay attention to Hare Krishna. Before the day started, he was the player in 8th place. He is now playing against Van Voorhees. The bar in the middle, maybe a draw, and only then 1 point for Hare Krishna. Would be good news for Aryan Tari.
And look at Vidit, he looks heartbroken, shaking his head in his hands. Right now, white is down a rook for a knight, but it's not just that. One of white's knights, you can just capture right now. Very least, black can just play queen, come down, take pawn in front of white's king, and swap the queens off, eradicate all remaining danger. Black's extra material will win. This one is a guarantee at this point for Aryan.
Wow.
Do pretty much anything.
Game 4 in a row with a win. That momentum.
Incredible. Yeah.
And against a direct rival, there's 1 point between these two before this game. And, OK, Aryan chooses the greedy approach, but a good approach. He's now a whole rook up. One of those knights has disappeared, and
Yeah.
Okay, I was going to say, even if white opens up the H line, black would bring his own black rook across and trade rooks. No threats against the black king. All threats against the black king are just too slow.
And I have to say, having played Aryan just recently, he's fantastic at defending as well and calculating as well. So, yeah. And the only thing that I can see is that maybe the clock times will pay, you know, have some influence, but I don't know, a minute feels like it's enough.
The problem is there's just not enough attacking ammunition left for white. Being down one rook is is one thing, but when you've got no more remaining attack, you can create a checkmate threat for Vidit. Let's just show this. Maybe the last hurrah, the last try is to create a checkmate threat, play pawn takes pawn, hope that black gets careless and allows the rook to come up and trap your king. For example, if black pushes a pawn, whoops, full 360 and a turnaround. He doesn't even go for this, but this is easily stopped. This check threat by black's rook coming across and challenging, swapping and winning the game. And talking of swapping and winning the game, we're about to see a result, because after white pushed his pawn forward, black has just brought his knight to the center, attacking the queen, trading off white's remaining lone attacker. And this one's game over. The check, and the black king can hide safely in the corner.
Wow.
Vidit now under 10 seconds as well. This one, I think he's going to resign any moment now. Knight's coming off the board. That does not help white in the slightest. Rook takes knight here for black. And surely we'll see a resignation. No, he continues playing. Pawn takes pawn. Some vague threats still.
Yeah, I mean, it's obviously over. It's a whole rook, but I mean, you can play on if you want, I guess.
And I think it is over. I think Vidit has maybe just let his clock run down, maybe?
No,
still
played a move.
No, he's still...
He took a pawn. And now Aryan just trying to trade off queens. Very logical.
Quite brave, that move. Well, I mean, you have to just calculate a little bit, because you're allowing one check. So that's about the best I think that white can get here. I mean, one important line maybe we could show it is if the white queen now moves over to a very dangerous looking square. It didn't do it, but if it comes to the open file, threatening checkmate, black has to exchange off queens here. But this would win the game. And
swap queens and win. And okay, we see a result over, because here Aryan has double attacked. He's attacked the white king and the white rook, and this ends the game. I think Vidit is about to resign, and we have a result.
Yeah. Wow, what an important win for Aryan Tari. He is now currently inside top 8 to qualify for the knockout stage, the Norwegian number 2, Aryan Tari. And a heartbreak for Vidit. He was really frustrated in this game. This was his reaction when we actually entered the game. Did he at some point blunder here?
He did. I think it was a few mistakes here and there, a few small mistakes, but those added up to the eventual defeat for Vidit, and it was just a race of attacks. His attack was too slow. Aryan's attack got there first.
And he knows, of course, the tournament situation. A loss here is very bad news for Vidit in hopes of qualification. We're jumping into this one. Pragnananda, before the day started, in 7th place. Mishra, he's not going to qualify for the knockout stage, but the 13-year-old so far has won 3 games, and in this one, between the 2 youngest players in the tournament, the bar is over to the American side.
It looks quite crazy, though. I have to say, with both players with seconds to spare.
Oh, look at that.
Anything can happen.
Yeah, battle of the teenagers, maybe a battle of the future world champions. Yeah. Right now, white has an extra rook for one of black's bishops, but black's bishops look great. They're pointing towards the white king. Massive threat on the board right now. Pragnananda wants to use the black dark squared bishop to go to the c5 square and attack the white queen and kind of laser vision down to the white king. Ooh, white's king feels really, really weak.
Yeah, I mean, maybe you can play that move anyway, the bishop, and move the queen in now.
Yeah,
I mean, that's
you're right, Simon.
The first thought that...
I think, Simon, you've spotted the win immediately, and he's going to do it. This is a pin, white's queen pinned to the white king, and the only way to save your queen is to block with a pawn. We're going to see this, and now the black queen enters the centre of the board.
And this threatens checkmate, threatens to win the queen with bishop takes pawn, and the diagonal is too strong for the queen and bishop. So nice power of the bishops there.
We should mention
bishops.
Raking. Yeah.
We should mention the checkmate threat is the black queen going into the corner of the board. And okay, clever there from Mishra, offering a trade of queens, and white's rook in the corner does defend the queen. So there's no checkmate yet, but unfortunately now.
Couple of ways to win there, weren't there, I think. So,
and now you can just put it in the bank, just start snapping off the material.
I mean, look at those bishops. I mean, they're just incredible, and we're going to see resignations here, aren't we? I think.
Yeah, Prague just too strong. When the chips were down, when the clocks were ticking, Prague turned it around, and yeah, heartbreak for Mishra. But I mean, what a game! It's looked like it's been exciting from move one. Both players throwing everything at the win, and here we go. This is a pin. White's rook near the king is about to fall, and we have a result.
Yeah.
Prague takes it.
Oh, and look at Mishra. Such a champion. He just leaves angry with himself for losing this game to the great Pragnananda, the 16-year-old, who's just shocking the world over and over again. 3 points for Prague is very good news for him. He was in 7th before the day started, so it's looking very good for him now to qualify for the knockout stage, which of course is very fun. And the game, it came in very late. You guys said it was crazy when we entered. What was happening?
It was crazy, but in the end, this game was decided by the laser-like bishops, and it was all about Black's bishops here. Black is actually down on material, but Prague had worked out that especially this light-squared bishop cutting across the board, it was worth the previous sacrifice. And I just want to show how Prague finished this off, how he got the win. We started with a pin, pinning the white queen to the white king. Laser-like vision, as we mentioned, and there's only one way to preserve the white queen. You have to step forward, and now utilising the other bishop. Look at these bishops on this diagonal, this diagonal. The black queen came forward, trying to sneak in, deliver a checkmate, and despite white's best attempts, blocking with the queen, for example, we saw Prague win the game. And this last move, rook takes bishop, trying to deflect away the white rook. This was the winner. If white's rook takes the black rook now, then it's checkmate. And also, just to fast forward to the final position, here, Mishra resigned. Simply the power of the bishops. Once again, unstoppable bishops winning the game.
In 15 minutes, the second to last round in the preliminaries, and we're going to follow from start the game between the two players on top of the table. Magnus Carlsen against Anish Giri, and Magnus with the white pieces. Do you think we're going to get some strange opening moves?
Yeah, he kind of hinted like that he would do it. And he's also been playing some very unorthodox moves in previous tournaments and also previously in the earlier rounds. So I suspect that Magnus is going to have some fun. Yeah, I don't know what he's going to play, though. Don't ask me that.
And when we interviewed Anish Giri yesterday, he said he hoped that Magnus would play a weird move, such as h4. I think Anish will be ready, if it happens, ready to try and punish Magnus.
Yeah, he is an opening expert, Anish Giri. He has a bunch of Chessable courses. And now we're going to hear him talk about his Najdorf course.
Hi, in this video I'm going to tell you what the Najdorf is. Najdorf is the opening you play with the black pieces against white's most popular move, 1e4. You probably will face this in half your games with the black pieces, no matter what level you're playing at. Sicilian is the move c5. We have to control the center. You can control it with e5, but that's too symmetric, and with c5 you immediately create the imbalance. Still you're fighting for the center. Now, white usually develops the knight. You push the central d-pawn one step forward, preparing the knight move here. You don't want to allow white to push forward. Now you will be able to take it. White plays d4, another move trying to control the center. We trade the pawns. White takes back. Now you already see that the pawn structure is very asymmetric. We have 2 pawns in the center, while white has only 1. So there is some potential for advantage in the center for us. We develop the knight, attacking the pawn. White also develops the knight, and now the move that defines the Najdorf, there is this move a6. You control the square, preparing to chase the knight, not allowing white to give a check here. That is the starting position of the Najdorf. It's a very unbalanced position. The pawn structure is asymmetric. We have the open c file. Sometimes white castles to the long side with the king, and we will castle short, and that leads to attacks. White will try to attack here, we'll attack there. All these asymmetric positions are very fun and exciting. The Najdorf is called the Najdorf because, well, named after famous Argentinian player Miguel Najdorf, who popularized this opening a lot in the previous century. And it's been played by some great players like Bobby Fischer, Garry Kasparov, Magnus Carlsen, Vishy Anand, Veselin Topalov, and many, many others. Recently by Maxim Vashila-Graf, Jan Nepomniachtchi. Myself, I also played it a little bit. So good luck, have fun, enjoy the Najdorf. Thank you.
a popular opening, the Najdorf Sicilian, named after a great chess player as well, Jovanka.
Yeah, it was named after Miguel Najdorf. Now, Miguel Najdorf was actually born in 1910 in Poland, and under the tutorship of the great Savielly Tartakova, he became actually one of Poland's leading players. And everything was going great until 1939, when suddenly Najdorf's life was turned upside down. He was playing in the Chess Olympiad in Argentina when on the 1st of September, he found out that Nazi Germany had invaded his homeland, Poland, and he was faced with just an impossible choice. So he decided to stay in Argentina and that he was going to earn as much money as possible in order to get his family across from Poland over across the ocean. He sold ties, he sold chocolates, he played lots and lots of blindfold symbols. But unfortunately, tragedy struck. And he lost not only his wife, his daughter, his parents, and 4 of his brothers. No, it really is incredibly sad. And obviously, not having anything to live for in Europe, he decided to remain in Argentina. And despite all the tragedies, you know, he's never, ever lost his eternal optimism. And he became one of the world's leading players. And also, he had a very larger-than-life personality. He was famous for his chess quotes. And I have to tell you my favourite one, which goes like this. I had a very wise aunt who once said, being a pawn up is better than being a pawn down. And as a pawn grabber, I wholeheartedly agree.
The great Miguel Najdorf.
Yeah, and the note opening carries his name because from the 1940s over to the 1960s, he did extensive work on this particular variation of the Sicilian defence. So we have to take a look at why this opening is so popular. We heard Anish Giri mention a whole load of names, and it really is a firm favourite for all of the top chess players. And there you can see that Black has just played a small little move with Alice, you know, a6. And, well, why is this leading to such dynamic, unbalanced positions? And it's because that little pawn move does 2 things. First of all, it prepares the advance of Beth, the B pawn. You know, she's going to move 2 squares. It also controls the B5 square. So this means that neither a knight or a bishop can arrive to that square. And this, in turn, allows Black to actually pick up the E pawn and push it 2 squares, if they so desire, and start attacking the knight. And as Anish mentioned, it has been a favourite of Garry Kasparov, Bobby Fischer, and in more recent times, the Frenchman Maxime Vachier-Lagrave, and of course, we can't forget Anish Giri himself.
Of course. And it is Anish Giri's course on this Najdorf Sicilian. That is the prize. And the question of today, we're asking what's your experiences with Chessable for a chance to win this great course valued at over $300. Is this a favorite of yours, Jovanka? Do you like to play the Najdorf?
No. I'm all about not the kind of direct aggression. I'm more about, you know, getting the nice solid beginning and then starting the fun. But I have to say, you know, the Najdorf is popular for a reason, and that's because it gives Black chances from the get-go.
Yeah. All right, so interesting to hear both the tragic and nice story of Miguel Najdorf. And I'm also always enjoying Jovanka's chess talks with chess players and other people. And released today on Chess24 is the chess talk with Mamedyarov.
My guest has been one of the world's top super grandmasters since 2007. He's been world champion in rapid chess, and today he is famous for his creative genius. Here to share with us his inspirational story, it's Grandmaster Shakhriyar Mamedyarov.
When I was 14 and a half years, and I see my chess career is going not very well. No sponsors and no tournaments, no computer, nothing. I start to learn chess every day. And it was my program wake up in 4 o'clock, in 5 o'clock in the morning. Yeah.
4 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah,
you would wake up.
Yeah, 4 o'clock, and I go to in park with my books, but not chess boards. And when I go to school, I put not school books. I just only chess books in my. I go to books. I open chess books in the school. I open and I learn again chess position, chess every day.
And you can hear this whole interview and the great story of Shakhriyar Mamedyarov if you are a Chess24 Premium member, and right now there is a 40% discount if you use the code MAYSALE. Let's take a look now at the results from round 13 in Chessable Masters. A bunch of important games and results. Erik Hansen got a win against David Anton. Unfortunately, Erik is out of contention for the knockout. Jordan van Foreest, that's an important win for many players, beating Hare Krishna. Great news for especially Aryan Tari, who won his game against Vidit to gain 3 points. Nils won that battle with Sam Shanklin, so hope still for Nils to qualify. Praggnanandhaa a win against Mishra, and Anish Giri on fire, winning also against Wei Yi. So the standings now, with only 2 rounds to go in the preliminaries, Anish Giri is on top of the table. He has 3 more points than Magnus Carlsen, looking safe for Ding, for Praggnanandhaa, for Wei Yi. And Shakhriyar Mamedyarov is now inside top 8. David Anton in 7th. And we do now have Aryan Tari in that crucial 8th place with Nils only 2 points behind him, and Pentala Hare Krishna 3 points behind him again. It's getting really, really intense and exciting. So we're joined again by our great friend Ty. Did this change a lot, Ty, the results from round 13?
It did. Tari is now a favorite to qualify. His odds are up to 59%.
Wow. So he had like 20%.
And Nils both have. He jumped a ton, not only because he won, but also because Hare Krishna lost and he beat Vidit. So everyone who was on that cut line, he's the one who gained points. Something else interesting that happened is David Anton lost, and he's no longer completely guaranteed. He's down to 81%, but he's going to need to at least draw a game. If he loses his last 2 and has a 0 day, he's probably going to miss out. So he needs to pick up another at least point. A win would help. A win would pretty much clinch it for him. And almost no one's actually out of it.
Really?
Even Erik Hansen's win suddenly opened a little light even for him. He'd have to win both of his last 2 games, but if he goes 3-0 today, he's up to 76%. He needs a little help, but like there's chances everywhere. If Jordan van Foreest after his win can tack on 2 more, he has a 46% chance if he gets a little lucky with the other games. So everything's in contention, but right now it's Tari in the lead for that likely 8th spot.
Wow. I called Erik Hansen out of contention, but this round really shook everything up. So as you're saying now, a bunch of players do have chances to qualify. So who is absolutely safe now? From what place?
All of the top 6 are.
Okay.
Well, okay, Wei Yi needs to at least draw a game. If he loses his last 2, he's only 62% to get in on his current 20 points.
Okay.
Mamedyarov has better tie breaks, but still he needs a point to clinch. He's 87% if he loses out. The top 4 are 100%.
Okay.
Wow. Yeah.
Interesting. And Ty, I also wanted to ask you, because you're doing all these stats about openings as well, and we've been talking a lot about the Najdorf Sicilian today, and I know you have a few stats on that as well, because it's been played very little on the tour this season.
It has. We've only seen now 7 Najdorfs, including the one Giri played last round. And that's out of... How many times has Sicilian been played? Total, out of 59 Sicilians, we've seen the Najdorf only 7 times.
Wow.
And it's mostly white that has been avoiding playing into it.
But white, I see, also has the most wins when the Najdorf has been played.
When they play it, white has done very well, but they've mostly been playing moves that avoid the Najdorf entirely. And so White's been showing a weird combination of fear and success in the Najdorf.
Wow, interesting. It's going to be interesting to see if we see any Najdorf Sicilians in round 14. Ty, thank you again for joining us, and we'll see you again in about 45 minutes before that final round.
I'll see you then.
See you then. All right. How interesting, you guys. Ty telling us it's actually wide open right now.
Yeah, and maybe the magical qualification kind of number, the number of points, it's slightly lower than in the past. So that's opened the door for more players. And yeah, even players like Erik Hansen. I mean, maybe he doesn't realize it himself, but a couple of wins, he might be there.
But it's going to be a difficult ending for Erik Hansen. I just checked. He has Magnus Carlsen and Liren left to play. And these are the games coming up in round 14. So Aryan Tari now inside top 8. He's going to face Wei Yi in this next round. Nils Grandelius coming from a win now against Vidit, who lost to Aryan in the previous round. Pragnananda is safe. He's now playing Sam Shanklin. Hari Krishna, he lost the previous game, and now he faces Mishra. Gawain Jones against Jordan Famfories, David Anton against Shakhriyar Mamedyarov, Ding now against Erik Hansen. But we will follow Magnus Carlsen with the white pieces against tournament leader Anish Giri. And I'm super eager to see the opening move from Magnus in this game. Let's take a look at the head-to-head stats between two of the very top players in the Meltwater Champions Chess Tour. Magnus is the only player with a rating over 2,800. What do you think of Anish's tour rating, David?
It's gone a lot. It's gone up a lot just this tournament alone. It's actually still maybe around or roughly lower than his rating in classical over the board chess. So no surprises, he's over 2,700. But yeah, maybe it could be improved. Maybe he's one player who will aim towards 2,800 as the tour continues.
Yeah, he is ready, Anish Giri, to face Magnus Carlsen. We did see also Fighting Chess Index reflecting how much of a fighting spirit the players has. Magnus way over 60 on that index. And do you think, Simon, we will have a fighting game here? Do you think this is a game Magnus really wants to win?
Yes, definitely. I mean, I think it's known that these two have a bit of rivalry, especially on Twitter, historically and over the board. So with the white pieces, Magnus is really going to want to win this game, and I think show who the boss is.
Yeah.
You know, this could be who comes first in the group stages, which is a big thing to aim for. So it's going to be exciting, definitely.
Frenemies for sure. But maybe just before Magnus arrives, we should try and guess the first move.
Yes.
Yeah, definitely.
I think it's going to be a B pawn push.
Oh.
Do you think so?
We've seen C3, D3, H4.
I think it's going to be Alice, the A pawn. I think it's going to be
A4.
one square.
Isn't that
one
really?
square A3?
Oh, okay. I was thinking a bit more sensible. That's not like me, but I was going to go G3. That's a bit too sensible, isn't it?
Kaja, what do you think?
I'll be sensible. I'll do Queen's pawn.
Okay.
E4.
D4.
D4.
Oh, D4.
D4,
okay.
I mean, yep.
So D4, I'll say B4.
B4, not B3. Wow.
He's played it against Anish before.
Okay.
But I just have a feeling.
Maybe A4. I think if he's going to push the A pawn, it'll be two squares.
But pushing your Alice one pawn, one square is actually not bad.
It's not a bad move at all. No, you just play with the black pieces, don't you, really? So it's
Could literally be anything.
Yeah.
It's lucky dip, 1 in 20 chance. 1 in 20 chance.
We normally never say this. We normally like, push the queen's pawn, king's pawn, maybe even the bishop, one of the bishop pawns, but never ever.
But I guess Magnus said yesterday the only thing he's never going to play is the G pawn.
Yeah, he's never going to play the grob.
Yeah.
Move
G4.
that pawn to G4.
I'm actually really excited about this move more than anything else. I just guess the move. It's incredible. It could be anything.
Oh, I wish we'd run a Twitter poll on what his first move would be. Or something.
I know.
Well, we can ask our audience, they have a few seconds to find out.
Okay, they're going to be off soon.
They're going to be off, yeah.
Quickly
What will
tweet
be
us.
the opening move? Will Magnus play something strange? I mean, he doesn't look in that funny mood right now. But look at Anish. You know, he must be excited as well.
Yeah, I think Anish would love to see anything. Oh, Kaja, you're right.
Result.
D4, it's a normal-ish opening for now.
H4. Can we see him do H4 now?
Your
This
Harry attack.
The Harry attack. This is one of my favourite openings.
Your chessable courses, Simon.
It is, yeah. If white pushes this pawn 2 squares 4s, it's a chessable course I did with Richard Palliser. And again, if you're a cheapskate like that Twitter guy earlier, you can look at it for free. No, he's gone for a more positional approach. Okay. This is very sensible.
Yeah, this is normal chess.
We don't want to see normal chess, do we? So,
Maybe he's saving it for the knockouts now,
maybe.
Magnus. And yeah, as you mentioned, it's very normal, very solid as well. We see one of, I'm trying to remember the exact name, the solid system of the Fianchetto Grunfeld. I think that's what Peter Svidler called it in his Chessable course. And this white queen coming out, defending a pawn in the centre. Very logical stuff.
I've always called this kind of setup that black has produced the Grunfeld-Slav. Is that correct, or is that just me making
that
things
would
up?
make sense as well, yeah. It's basically a mishmash of the Grunfeld and the Slav. We've seen that from the top players. They do like to kind of put together ideas from different openings.
And the Slav we've seen was a very good opening in the tour for black, correct? The most...
For white.
Was it for white? It
was for white, yes. We learned something that if you're playing on the tour, probably not a good idea to meet the queen's pawn opening by adopting the Slav defence.
Correct.
Better to do something else. The Nimzo Indian, I think, had a very good percentage.
For black, yeah.
For black.
Actually, black was scoring really well against one e4. That's why we've seen a trend towards d4, the English opening, the Reti opening, lots of others. e4, out of fashion at the very, very top level, at least in this rapid format. And yeah, maybe the Slav not scoring so well for black. But if you mix it with the Grunfeld, maybe you give it a bit of extra luck, a bit of extra spice. And here, I'm surprised to see Giri thinking this bishop move, by far the most normal, the most logical. And, OK, Magnus already putting pressure on black centre. We call this kind of half the Slav in a way, because black's pawns in the middle of the board on light squares protect each other. But now, after this trade, white has the most central pawn. White has a bit more space. Black has given up a whole bunch of squares. That being said, the white queen has lost a bit of time. So I'm expecting Anish Giri now to just castle his king. And, yeah, relatively balanced middle game ahead, maybe.
Yeah, I expect the white queen to get kicked about. But it's actually not a big deal. My experience goes that, you know, the queen can sometimes even find itself on very strange locations, such as the B1 square. But it's OK. Yeah. Chess is funny like that.
Yeah. I try. Is this the Russian variation where you bring the queen out? I mean, I remember there was some games. Botvinnik had this a couple of times in some very important competitions. Normal moves coming up here, both sides developing, and it really is about is white's centre strong or could it actually be weak? I guess this position. And I always like personally having the extra central pawn. I find it a bit easier to play with. I'm sure Jovanka does as well, knowing Jovanka's style. But David, you played a Grunfeld, so maybe you actually like being on the black side of this structure.
Yeah, I do normally, but I like to be able to challenge white's stronghold in the middle as quickly as possible. Now black's moved this pawn one square forward. It takes longer to push it again and really break down white's centre. I guess black will long-term be aiming for this pawn push or maybe even this pawn push just to challenge. And if you can successfully implement maybe a pawn trade, open the position up even more, then black's bishop, for example, might come to life on this diagonal. Long-term, black has decent prospects, but as you guys mentioned, short-term, white does have two central pawns against just one. So, yeah, short-term, I think the older I get, the more I prefer white in these types of positions. Minimal risk. One plan for white, for Magnus right now, would be, for example, OK, he drops his queen back first, and I'm expecting black's queen to come out and maybe offer this trade. And then one idea for white is to move his rook across in order to support a pawn push. And, yep, here we go. This is the current position. And instead of this rook move, white's bishop comes out. Very natural square. I don't think we'll see a trade of queens yet. It's kind of a waiting game there. If black trades the white queen, after this recapture, white gains a semi-open file. And likewise, if, for example, white trades the black queen, then black gains the semi-open file. So it's a bit of a standoff.
But Magnus's last move with the bishop, I'm not aware of it being a main move. I mean, like you mentioned, the rook stepping sideways one square to support the e4 push, it seems to me much more logical.
Yeah, I think he's maybe borrowing an idea from the Slav itself. Normally in the Slav, we wouldn't see this setup with a pawn here and a bishop here. We would normally see the pawn maybe pushed forward on the e6 square and the black bishop located behind it on the e7 square. And there, this is a very, very trendy move, the white bishop coming out. But it's basically the exact same position, just with this small difference of the black bishop placed on a different square. So it's roughly balanced. I still quite like white's chances, but Anish Giri, I mean, once he brings the rooks towards the centre, maybe to this square, maybe to this square, I think he's solid enough for now. So, yeah, it's An interesting opening choice. I'm slightly disappointed, I must say. I'm deflated now that Magnus didn't go for something a bit more spicy, a bit more aggressive.
I'm surprised, really, because I mean, this, you know, when he gets to the knockout stages, maybe he has to try to really neutralise the white pieces a lot more. But he hasn't got much to lose by playing something a little bit wonky in this game. Maybe that shows he really wants to beat Anish and give him quite a lot of respect as well.
But I have to ask, so in those games that we've seen Magnus play these very strange opening moves, the results have been quite good for him, right? He hasn't lost any of those games.
No, he hasn't.
2 draws, was it? I mean, F3 was a... No, did he win with F3?
F3 was a draw. That was against Duda in the Ulster Esports Cup.
He was winning.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was win, and he also beat Vidit playing 1d3.
Yeah.
Which was a bit unusual, let's say. And then with the H4 move, that was a draw.
Yeah.
So, but it was winning.
But he was winning there
But
as
he was
well.
winning there,
So,
and there was a very thematic rook and pawn endgame. I recommend everyone to go and check it out. A good learning point there.
Yeah.
Here in the studio yesterday, we were struggling with that rook and pawn endgame between Carlsen and Wei Yi. I mean, we saw the evaluation bar said it was winning, but how? And I think we all went back and studied it afterwards, and it's one of the most unique rook and pawn endgames you'll find out there.
Wow.
Really good kind of brain training for endgames and calculation.
Yeah. And talking about learning, our quiz of the day is all about asking the question, what is your experience with Chessable? And Elvis Mihailovic says, absolutely worth it. And we see a trade of queens. And if as an amateur, I've learned quite a lot in the 6 months, awesome courses and great teachers. Just a superb tool Chessable offers.
Oh, that's great to hear.
Very nice tweet from Elvis Mihailovic. And John Hickman, I think I know John, so hello, John, says that they have been using Chessable for over 5 years. As soon as I discovered it, I felt that it was something special for chess learning, and I've enjoyed seeing it progress from strength to strength. Great to hear that, John. And hopefully I will play you again in Jersey.
Are you playing in Jersey? Oh, no, I think it clashes with this, doesn't it? So,
I don't
Guernsey.
think...
Guernsey.
But I actually got to know and chat to John because we would have some coffee together in Jersey. I love Jersey, by the way.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's that's one of the great things about chess, and how it unites people, and you can meet new friends, and you get to go to strange places, interesting places. So it really is. I mean, a lot of us, we know each other for all our lives, and some of my friends I sort of met when I was about 7 years old.
Wow.
And I'm still in contact with them. So it's lovely, all through chess. So it really has that side to it as well.
And Jersey, I know they will actually have a team for the Olympiad.
And for the very first time, they will have a women's team.
Fantastic.
Which is a big deal because Jersey is a very small chess community, and to find 5 women players, and it's a really recent development, but I mean, it's huge.
Fantastic.
And I think Chessable might be helping them.
Yeah. Chessable gonna help the Jersey team towards the Olympiad, and I think many people are wondering if you guys will play. We have a bunch of moves, though.
We do have a bunch of moves. The queens have left the board, so we're in kind of a middle game / end game right now. And White does have a bit of a weird pawn structure. I'm still unsure whose position I like here, to be honest. White has a bunch of weak pawns, especially on the B file, but White has a lot of space and a lot of open lines. So we'll go into the plans maybe a bit deeper in a moment.
All right.
But still very balanced.
And are you playing in the Olympiad, David?
Yes.
Fantastic. Gonna travel to India and Jovanka?
Yes.
Aha! And Simon?
No.
But you might be there.
I might be there, yeah. We'll wait and see. Maybe, yeah.
Will you be there, Kaja?
I will probably follow you guys from here. Yeah. We do have a tournament coming up, a major coming up right after that one finishes, the Olympiad. But I'm really looking forward to follow you guys. What do you think England's chances are?
Do you want me to be really optimistic, or do you want me to be very English and play down our chances?
Oh.
I think they have great chances, Kaja.
Yeah.
I think they really do. Yeah, they're a strong team.
Yeah.
They do really well. They work really well as a team.
Yeah.
And it's going to be really exciting.
It's going to be David, Gwaine...
not Nigel, Mickey Adams.
Luke
McShay. Well,
Yeah.
actually, I don't know. I'm announcing the team before I even know it.
Yeah, I don't think it's confirmed yet, but the usual suspects.
Yeah. How cool.
Well, I mean, we've done very well the last few team tournaments, but these days, England's, at least the Open team, our kind of top players, we don't play as much as we used to since the pandemic. So
But you've had some great results in the tournaments you have played, David.
Yes.
So that is some great news.
And you're part of the team that beat China. We mentioned that the other day, which is incredible. I mean, beating China is just phenomenal results. So just do that every round, you'll be all right.
We'll
so
try.
yeah,
We've beaten them a few times.
They also have lucky jackets, which were not the colour that I intended them to be. But anyhow, it makes everyone look like schoolboys. And it was like, oh my goodness me. The first time I saw it, I was like, oh. But, you know, we'd paid a lot of money for them. And I was like, OK, fine, you know.
Also
but they are incredibly lucky.
Yeah.
Nearly every single time they wear them, someone wins a medal.
We've got this great picture from the World Team Championships in 2019 where we got silver just behind Russia, but ahead of China, India. And then we literally look like a kind of a lineup of naughty schoolboys. And all of us have this blue jacket and all of us have different coloured trousers which don't match the jacket or the shoes. So,
I need to dig up that picture.
Chess and fashion.
Do you think, I was wondering this, I mean, like some chess players, and I think they've become more fashionable in the last sort of 10, 20 years, but I don't know, in general, chess players have never been that fashionable, have they? I mean, maybe at the top, but you go to your weekend competitions, and one way I could always spot a chess player, like let's say I got off the tube and I wasn't sure where the venue was, I just look for the person carrying the plastic bag, because it'd always be, the chess player would always be that person with his maybe shirt tucked outside their jeans and carrying that plastic bag, and he's a chess player, I'll follow him, I'll find the venue. But they got more fashionable, yeah, especially at the top.
I'd like to think so.
Yeah, well, we got you leading the way, David.
Stop, I'm just following these guys. And talking of these guys, we have had a few moves, and the evaluation bar is really shifting towards Black's favour. And on the board, I think I'm inclined to agree. I still don't think White's out of it. I think Magnus has decent chances, but let's jump in to show what has changed. And it's all about the queens coming off, first of all, but it's all about these pawns. They are doubled, they are isolated, they are weak. They're definitely targets, but how can Black get at them? We just see the bishop coming to the centre of the board, doing a good job of blockading and kind of neutralising this white bishop on a long diagonal, and Magnus just pushing his pawn forward. And it's a weird pawn structure. All of these pawns now, all of White's pawns on dark squares, which means the light squares are weak. But also, for example, later when Black pushes a pawn forward, there are easy plans of the bishop coming and trying to grab this pawn. I am inclined to choose Black here. I don't think White's out of it. For example, if he does drop his knight back, if he's able to, for example, jump in with his knight to this dream square, just covering all the holes, maybe even jumping into Black's camp later. But it's definitely Magnus on the defensive for the next couple of moves, at least. I think Anish, maybe he needs something even more direct. This pawn push I just mentioned does allow, for example, White to, yes, go back with the bishop, but White allowing now.
Could you do a ridiculous move here, and this won't happen, but because they love their bishops, but could you take the knight?
Take this knight off. Yep.
Just so you stop that manoeuvre, which seemed like a really nice manoeuvre for the white knight, and then go for your plan here, maybe?
Yeah.
Something along this line, because the pawn you pointed out, White's pawn on the queen side, is a real weakness, and at least you can get some pressure against that guy. Maybe. But
Actually, I mean, Simon, I really like this idea.
Could be, because I don't think the White's light square bishop is fantastic, because you don't really have many pawn breaks to open it up with White's pawn structure. So maybe a simple way to just proceed here.
Yeah, and you're right. The only pawn push you can play actually loosens the position. Now the Black Knight will simply retreat somewhere, and this pawn now eternally weak. So, yeah, I like that. I like that a lot, Simon. The more I look at it, I think that might be Black's safest, but also best move. And
he's played it. Wow.
I
got a positional idea right. Wow. Oh, he mouse slipped on the next move, though.
Oh.
But this is also very logical. No, it's not a mouse slip. Yeah, I mean, I thought he'd push it one square, but this also makes sense, right? Yeah. But opening the position is risky when you've given up the bishop as well. So, yeah.
I'm less keen. I thought just put your pawns on light squares. You've traded off your light square bishop, block it up. All these pawns on light squares now actually help to fight against this bishop. But instead, Anish says no, he wants to open things. And after we see a trade of pawns, which is guaranteed to happen, yes, this pawn is attacked, but it can be easily defended. White just lifts up the rook now and covers all the holes. The problem is these pawns, they are weaknesses, but you can't really attack them anymore. If you drop your bishop back, then White can just remove one of the attackers of the pawns. For example, bishop takes knight, and, very, very level position. But Black here has an isolated pawn. Anish definitely doesn't want that. So in the current position, instead of retreating his bishop, he's just put his remaining pawn on light squares. All of White's pawns are on dark squares, all of Black's pawns on light squares. maybe that will just balance each other out. I don't think White's going to win this one, though, because White is the one with the long-term weaknesses.
And also, Anish hasn't lost a single game so far in this tournament. He has won 7 out of 13 games. Incredible tournament for Anish. He seems to be in top shape, I have to say.
Maybe his best performance on the tour since last year's Magnus Carlsen Invitational, which he actually won, Anish Giri. Since then, he's struggled a bit, maybe not quite at his best. We're used to seeing him in tournaments like Vaikanze just steamroller a lot of players.
Yeah, but the last month at the Oslo Esports, he really seemed to struggle and he looked a little bit sad and dejected.
Yeah, that's true.
But sometimes this is what you need to go through. You need to have this dip and then you can recover and play some great chess.
Yeah.
And, the unfortunate thing about this format, though, is that you do have preliminaries and then everything kind of gets reset and then you have the quarterfinals and the semi-finals. So, he will have to maintain his form, not just today, but tomorrow as well. Although he gets bragging rights and also tie-break advantages by finishing top of the table.
But if the standings were exactly like they are now, he would actually face Aryan Tari then in quarterfinals. And that's been a second for him several times. So they would know each other very well.
Yeah, I mean, anyone could beat anyone in this field, but it's always difficult when you play someone you've worked with. I mean, that just adds a bit of psychology that you don't really want. You just want to be able to focus on the board. But
I have a question to you when it comes to seconds and the people that they're working for. So I understand that the seconds wouldn't be able to use the openings that they prepare together. But what about the reverse?
I
think it's just bad etiquette. I don't know if it's any contractual obligations, but it's just a bit rude.
Do they have to sign a contract when they're becoming seconds? I mean, I guess there's legal documents that some people do, some people don't, because you can't just give away all those ideas, can you? Or straight away. So I don't know. It's strange. I don't know what the deal is with never been asked. Still waiting my call up, David. So
if I'm ever good enough or rich enough to hire a second, Simon, you'll be top of the list.
You'd have to have a lot of dosh, mate. A lot of dosh, for this.
I know how expensive your rates are, so I need to.
All those Chessable courses, information, So.
And I mean, it's interesting because we did a podcast with Anish Giri, we did one with Jordan van Vriest, and they talked about it a little bit, about stuff like that. And Anish did mention that Jordan had to sign a contract when he was working with Magnus. I mean, of course, we don't know the terms of those, whether secrets are part of it in terms of which openings they can talk about, which openings they can discuss with others. But it's at the very top level, I think it's a different game. It's a lot of cloak and dagger. It's like a spy novel.
Yeah, secrecy.
Yeah. I remember that game where, the rook has centralised itself. I remember that opening idea that Grunfeld, and I can't remember who it was, that they concocted this fantastic idea together. And Grunfeld's student, Maya Chibinanadze, was going to play that position, and he didn't want to tell her. So he just said to her, keep looking, keep looking. Keep looking.
And did she find it?
She did.
Good stuff.
But is that kind of breaking the contract?
Yeah, definitely. As long as nobody finds out, it's fine.
That's one of my favourite books, actually, Grunfeld's book. I think it's his Life and Times, his autobiography. He was quite a larger-than-life character. So if you're looking for a good chess book, Grunfeld's, his autobiography written by him is very interesting.
Cool.
Yeah, meanwhile, on the board, we have seen a trade of one set of rooks, a bit of manoeuvring. Nothing really has changed. The pawn structure is still exactly the same. The trade of rooks has meant that black occupies the D file, the open file, but no real entry squares or no effective entry squares into the white camp. White's king, meanwhile, centralising itself. I think Magnus here, he's getting ready for a scenario where maybe the remaining set of rooks get traded off, and then White's king is the quickest to the centre. White's king might win the race, and...
Is it possible for the black knight to jump in and give itself up?
This is maybe what Anish is thinking about, a bit of a flashy move. The black knight here sitting, not really doing too much at the moment, and Jovanka wants to jump it in to attack this bishop. And it looks like the black knight is under threat, but if the white rook moves and captures this black knight, then it loses the protection of its own bishop. And black's rook can now capture the white bishop, and suddenly the black rook creeps behind, starts grabbing some pawns. This would be very good for Anish, but I think the idea after the knight jumps in, which it has done, is that the rook doesn't move, instead the bishop retreats. And now the bishop keeps everything guarded. And this has happened. The black knight now leaping back, and it's going to reposition itself potentially on this eternal outpost where it can't get kicked away. Not sure what it does there, really, but it looks nice and pretty. And I'm pretty sure we'll see Magnus improve the king. There we go. And after the black knight moves, then at some point we might see a trade of the remaining rooks.
Okay, interesting move there from a niche playing very quickly, moving the pawn by his king 2 squares, because you have to be very careful, you know, moving pawns because you can't move them backwards, so surprises me a little bit. Maybe not a problem as white doesn't have a knight to jump into those holes created. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, it seems fairly even still, doesn't it, this position?
Very even, and it's kind of both sides have created a barrier. With this pawn push, black not only has created a path in for his king towards the centre, but he has locked down on any white pawn pushes. This pawn can't push forward safely now. This square is covered twice. This pawn can't push safely now. This square is covered twice, and same for this pawn. So it's very hard for white to make progress. He's dropped his bishop back to one of my favourite squares for this bishop, just because it's nice and safe, but it doesn't actually do anything here.
The Gristchuk square.
The Gristchuk square, yeah.
Why is it called that?
I remember watching a great game. I got my, I was cheering. It was David Howe for the white pieces against Gristchuk. And David had a very good win by playing this similar idea in the Isle of Man competition.
Yeah, it's funny, in that tournament I won 3 games with white by putting my bishop on this square. So
Interesting.
I think it's just coincidence. They weren't necessarily great moves putting the bishop here, but it keeps the bishop nice and safe for later, and we might be about to see... I know whenever Jovanka makes that noise, she thinks it's going to be a draw. We might be about to see the white bishop come forward.
I have to watch out for that if I play you. What was it again? Do it again?
Let's go back to the players. We are about to see a result. The players are repeating the moves, and there we go. Abrupt, but nothing to do. The players repeat.
So it is a draw between the 2 top players so far in the tournament. This means Anish Giri is still on top of the table with only 1 game left to play. Magnus Carlsen in 2nd place. I guess there's not too much to say about this game, so we'll jump into the drama of qualification. Aryan Tari currently in 8th place against Wei Yi, and the bar is slightly over to Aryan's side. It's not a must-win situation for him, but a loss would be very bad news. So what does it look like?
And it's looking very good for Aryan, I must say. All of white's pieces have centralised. It's level material, same number of pawns, same number of pieces, but I just love the position of white's army. And also, remember, Wei Yi, he's lost 3 of the last 5 games now. He is on tilt. Everything's falling apart for him. If he loses this game, he's still not safe, right?
So, yeah, he has to get at least a draw out of this game and the next one. And I don't know what Aryan Tari's been eating in the morning. He's had his spinach or something. Yeah. But this could be his 5th win in a row. It's incredible at this level to beat these guys, 5 times. So he's really hitting form now, isn't he? Yeah. It does look lovely. If you could pick up the white knight in the middle, maybe we could just highlight it and move it diagonally 1 square. You're not really allowed to do that, but if you could somehow get that knight to that square, that's the first thing I'm thinking of. You'd probably just be winning here, in actual fact, because that knight is so strong. And looking at the pieces, look at black's bishops. Both of black's bishops are very passive. They're not doing anything. White's dark square bishop is incredibly strong, and even the other bishop is good as well. So it just seems like all of white's pieces are better here than black's, and a very promising position.
Yeah. The rooks as well, just phenomenal on the open line when things open up, and some pressure against this pawn at the right moment. I don't think you want to be greedy yet and go and capture, but that pawn is isolated, that pawn is weak on the a6 square.
There is a threat, though, in the position, and that is for black to capture the pawn. Is that something that white should be worried about, or, should white just simply carry on improving their pieces?
I think that's the key question, and it's hard to kind of defend this pawn in a constructive way. You don't, for example, want to bring your rook back to a passive square just to defend a mere pawn. So, yeah, what does white do about this? If we can't defend it, or if we don't want to waste time defending it, the question is how to attack.
I mean, can we play the knight to g3? I'm not sure. I mean, this is the move we want to play.
But it does allow...
It does allow the knight to come in, but then I take the bishop. I haven't really calculated this, but...
It's a fork,
but just wondering. If this does work, then this is certainly the key move that white will be thinking of, we think, here.
Yeah, and a counter-attack against the black queen. OK, he doesn't go this direction. Maybe he could have done, Simon. Instead, this one, yes, this one was complicated. Instead, he drops back the other way. So now this does deal with the threat of black's queen taking the white pawn that Jovanka mentioned, because now white could win 2 pieces for a rook. White could play rook takes bishop, and this knight can capture, but white's rook replaces it. White wins a bishop and a knight for a rook. That is a good trade, and also establishing a rook on the 7th rank with loads of targets. And yeah, this one looks very good for Aryan. So in the current position, I'm not really sure where this knight is heading, but it looks like a decent move. And this bishop was a target, as we mentioned, so it steps back. The question is, do you go back where you came from? Do you step into the middle of the board, or do you maybe enact Simon's idea? It takes a while now, but you can step back to the f1 square and then kind of jump into the dream f5 outpost a bit later on. It comes at the cost of this pawn on the edge of the board, but maybe it's worth it.
Could you also follow the rules? When in doubt, push Harry.
Actually, someone was mentioning that in the Chess24 chat. They were saying, has Ginger Jim missed the idea of h4? And I was like, oh, you know, for the first time ever, I forgot about Harry. But I mean, something like that would be, you know, a nice idea, right? Because your pieces are so well positioned, you want to take advantage of them. But losing a pawn, you can suddenly lose the game, can't you? And it's like, oh, I don't know if I really want to risk losing a pawn, do I?
I don't know. The problem is white's position is too nice in a way. You don't really want to go and guard a mere pawn, just worsen the white pieces. Yeah, and pushing Harry up the board makes some sense. Those 2 black knights are great defenders, so black's position is actually pretty terrible. But because those 2 black knights are sitting on good squares, there's no breakthrough for white.
Yeah,
it's actually pretty hard for Aryan right now. His position is great, but he does put his knight on a pretty bad square, to be honest, just to defend that white A pawn. So not the move he wanted to play, and you can see...
Is there a tactic, David, here
Yeah,
as well?
so I'm looking at this. I'm like, hang on a second, the knight and the queen are...
the
well,
bar.
the queen and the rook are... Black's queen and rook. I mean, this is just the kind of position where black is always looking to break out, because you don't want to sit passively and just wait. And if you get an opportunity, you take it. So maybe here...
take the pawn.
Take the pawn with a black knight and just try to break out, get some freedom. And David can show this on the analysis board now, yeah.
Yeah, maybe we can we're keeping an eye on the players, because Aryan, as soon as he played that move, he sunk down in his chair as if he realised that this knight sacrificing itself, taking a pawn, might be a good move. And after white recaptures, this is the trick you mentioned. You've unlocked this key square. The black pawn can push forward with a double attack. So black now will win back his piece with interest. The white queen... OK, we have seen this, yeah.
I think, I mean, it's just a very human move to do this, because you want to break out. You don't want to be passive. I mean, I don't know what's going on after even queen takes knight here. It's, you know, this is getting even more complicated. But we know Wei Yi is such a good calculator. You know, he takes his chances when he can.
So just to mention, this is a pin, so black's pawn cannot go and capture this queen. That would be illegal. But black can break the pin by taking the white bishop in the middle of the board, and suddenly the white queen is attacked and the white knight is attacked. Black will win back his piece. For example, if the white queen steps back to attack this bishop, Wei Yi has calculated, of course he's calculated, that bishop takes knight is possible. And after the fog all clears, we see that black temporarily at least has an extra pawn. He'll win this one as well on the edge of the board. So still not terrible for white, but yeah, definitely the momentum has changed. Wei Yi spotting this beautiful tactic, and in the current position, there's a double attack that Aryan has to deal with. He's lost control. And maybe that 5th win in a row, it's in doubt now.
That's a bit of a turnaround. That's what I find with these type of pawn structures. You make one slip up, and that's it. The momentum is on black's favour, and Aryan simply retreats the queen, but OK, he can play bishop takes bishop. He can play pawn takes knight.
He was shaking his head, Aryan, there.
Yeah.
That's not good. He's a very emotional player. He's all about confidence with him, and yeah, things have been going all his way in the last 4 games. If this one turns around, he might not defend it to the best of his abilities. Also, Wei Yi, I was going to say, the way to beat him is to just not allow any tricks, any tactics at all. You have to calculate so well.
He's disappeared now. Yeah. He's literally, I mean, he hasn't just shaken his head, he's disappeared into the ground. Hello, where have you gone? I mean, he can't be that low in his chair, can he? He's like literally there he is. Okay.
There he is.
So he was there, it's just his hair is the same colour as the chair.
Oh, right. Yeah, that's a good point, actually.
And look at Aryan, he is a little frustrated now after a 4 streak of winning games. This is good news, though. If it's not winning this game, that is good news for Jordan van Vries, because he won in round 14 here against Gawain Jones. So Jordan now on 16 points. So he has hopes of qualification if he wins also in the last round, and if Aryan, for example, doesn't gain too many points now.
And there he goes. He disappears again. Yep. So in the current position, temporarily, White is 1 pawn down. But White's pieces are so good that it feels like he should be fine. The evaluation bar confirms that. Black's far advanced pawn. I don't think I would remove my White queen from the middle of the board. She's glorious there. I don't really want to retreat her and take a pawn because Black's queen is also staring at White's pawn on the edge of the board. Maybe White could use the knight or one of the rooks to go and round up that Black pawn on the b3 square. He uses his rook. Very logical.
I think it's still okay for White. I mean, I think now in this situation, a draw would be a really good result for Aryan because he's still in that qualification position. But if he loses, he needs to get a result in the last game, and it'll be also, as you say, heartbreaking for him. So he's just got to try to build himself back up now, and make sure he doesn't lose this game.
I mean, the thing is, though, he still has chances to win. I mean, this is still a position where all three results are possible. And Wei Yi retreating the knight, attacking the queen, I like that move a lot. We saw Wei Yi be so tricky yesterday in his game against Magnus Carlsen. He set up how many mating threats?
Yeah, he reminds me of, like, when you're playing one of these really annoying juniors to play. Every move they're setting up a tactic, and it's like the moves aren't always right, but they're really annoying to play against.
And there's a tactic now.
There is, yeah, more tactics.
Yeah, for example, if White gets greedy, and remember a few moments ago we said rook for 2 pieces is a good trade. Rook takes knight looks possible, and after recaptures, White is up here 2 pieces for just 1 rook. White is also threatening to jump in with some checkmating ideas, but unfortunately, Black is the first to deliver checkmate. The Black rook comes down, and actually, look at the White king. It's blocked in. Its normal escape square is actually occupied by this bishop. So you can throw pieces back in the way. You can throw the White rook back, for example, but after Black gives up a piece, then it is checkmate, back rank checkmate. So Aryan here has to be really careful. He cannot get carried away, and he cannot go for this line. He cannot take this knight. Instead, he just has to... Wow, OK, he offers a trade of queens. I was going to say maybe just move the White bishop, create some squares for the White king to escape to. But now, if the trade of queens happens, at least he has 2 weak pawns to look at, this pawn and this pawn later. It should still be a draw, it feels like, but it's definitely Wei Yi with all the chances now. Aryan playing for the draw. It's all changed around.
Wow. Tough for Aryan to cope with. And, well, Wei Yi now has to make a decision. Trade of queens, support the queen, move away with the queen. I'm kind of tempted by actually relocating the knight, introducing a new piece into the game.
Defend the Black queen with the Black knight. That looks decent. That looks very logical. And Wei Yi, I mean, we talked about his tactical skills, that kind of Chinese chess background, and I mean, that's how he solves problems. In chess, there's many ways to solve problems. I do it by trying to just kind of stabilize things, grind things down, defend everything, play it slow and steady. Wei Yi tries to set 2-3 move traps every single turn.
Wow.
And that's how he held Magnus yesterday. And it's difficult. Sometimes you'll play one player with one style, you try and break them down, you run into a really stodgy defense. The next game, you run into an opponent who just tries to set all these traps every move. It's so hard to adjust in the rapid format.
I mean, a draw's a good result for him because it does mean he's going to qualify without any risk as well. So, maybe he's got that in the back of his mind. A draw's a good result actually for both players here, I feel. But a win is obviously better. So he's gone for your move. Yeah, it's funny that, isn't it? So how a win's better than a draw? Yeah. When was that ever the case?
Like it's a football commentary where they always like,
it's a game.
Score a goal than not score a goal.
It's a game of chess here. Oh, look at it, stalemate. It's like, no, it's not. So,
it's always a game of chess if it's 0-0 and boring.
There's so many.
I like the quote about I think it's a football quote. It goes, football's like a game of chess, except without the dice.
Yeah. What on earth does that... Yeah, I mean, there's so many corny lines, aren't there? I mean, that's actually a good question as well. What is the corniest line, that you could say, and probably is like a win's better than a draw, but
we can't ask the audience that because they'll probably quote back something we've said.
Definitely, yeah.
Okay, the queens have left the board, and now it's Aryan He's playing for the draw. It's a 2-result game. Either Wei Yi is going to win, because black will have an extra pawn once black's knight goes and captures the white pawn on b2, or Aryan will be able to kind of trade everything off, maybe even win black's pawn in the middle of the board and make a draw. But black does have this one extra pawn. It's not a strong pawn right now, but it is a passed pawn for later in the game. And if all the rooks disappear, maybe some long-term chances for Wei Yi. It's difficult, though, in a 2-result battle where you know you're just playing for a draw, no winning chances anymore for Tari.
How do you both adjust to this situation? I mean, this is one of the hardest things mentally, I think, for any chess player. You know you're doing well, you know you've got a big advantage, something goes wrong, you're suddenly defending a pawn down, no chances at all to win against a good player. I mean, Jovanka, are you good at that?
Well, I have my techniques. And, well, when it's over the board classical chess, you know, first of all, I leave the room and then I kind of try and splash water on my face. And then I'd give myself a talking to, like, let's see what you can do. And then I try to reset. Online, it's a lot more difficult because you're not allowed to leave. Yeah. And you don't have the time to reset.
Get the water bottle and just pour it over your head, maybe.
Yeah. I think this is where you have to go, OK, right, reset, breathe deeply, focus, and again, adjust to what is expected of you now.
Yeah, and what about you, David? I mean, do you adjust OK? Because you seem to be able to defend very well when needed. Yeah,
I mean, I'm similar to Jovanka. I need a little bit of time. That's why I like long chess. Well, for many reasons, but I need a little bit of time just to kind of get rid of those kind of bad thoughts from my mind, forget the past, stop beating myself up. But after a while, yeah, I find that just by calculating, focusing on the moves.
You have to, don't you? I mean, you just have to adjust. I mean, it's as simple as that. Otherwise, it's not good. But OK, I mean, that pawn now is moving, right? I mean, passed pawns can equal queens, and it's looking a bit scary for Aryan.
I was going to ask you both about the future. So, if a set of rooks get traded off the board, better for black? Well, obviously everything's better for black, but have the winning chances increased, decreased?
Yeah.
It's tough to say.
What about if knights leave the board?
If knights leave the board and rooks leave the board, I think it should be a draw. If it's just bishops left, as long as the white king can centralise, I think having the knights probably helps black.
OK.
It's hard to say, just because their knights are so tricky and the black knight will kind of threaten things and support the advance of its own pawn. Already the black knight was threatening stuff.
Because the reason I ask this is because often you can use these things not necessarily as anything concrete, but you just use them as signposts. Like, OK, you know, if I make this trade, my winning in chances increases. And so I was curious, because this is a really unusual pawn structure, actually, to have a passed pawn isolated like that.
Yeah, he's got to hone in on his Magnus Carlsen here, hasn't he, Aryan? He's got to be like, right, where is Magnus? I need Magnus now to help me out a little bit, and do that. So, and if he can do that, if he can hone in the Magnus energy, he can defend this position, I'm sure.
Yeah, I remember reading that once. I think it was in a magazine or a book. It was WWMD. It's like, what would Magnus do?
That's really what would Magnus do.
Yeah, sometimes I ask myself
I think everyone thinks that, don't they? I mean, like, you suddenly put yourself in someone else's style who's completely different to you, and you'd be like, what would they do in this position?
Do you know, actually, I did this just recently. So I played a long game just at the beginning of May, and I had a position, you know, where I was one pawn up, but, you know, there were a lot of drawing possibilities. And I sat there and I was like, what would David do? And this is how I came up with some weird king moves. I even triangulated my king. No, it wasn't. It was just weird. And I thought, David would do this type of thing.
if it's weird, then it's probably me.
I like that.
Actually, I got so into it, though. I realised, you know, before I knew it, my opponent resigned, and I was like,
It's kind of cheating, though, isn't it? You're getting outside help. You're honing into your David Howe. That's like, you know, no, obviously it's not cheating, but no, it's a very good idea. I mean, I sometimes do that when I need to calm myself down. I'm like, hang on a minute, don't go crazy, just do an Ulf Anderson. You know, what would Ulf Anderson do here? He would not sacrifice, would he, Simon? No, don't do it. So, no, it's quite a good thing to do sometimes. Just step back and do it. And, David, do you have any players, like, do you think I've got to do a Tau here? or a Magnus, or ever?
I think occasionally, what would Magnus do? What would
What will Simon do?
Yeah, what would
No, don't do that.
Kramnik do?
That's not a good idea. So,
Yeah, I think I sometimes need to do that more often, maybe. I've forgotten how to attack Simon. I need to ask myself.
I don't know.
All these months sitting next to you in the studio, I need to regain that skill. And okay, meanwhile, a few moves. And I like the fact that the white bishop has moved, just because the white king has an escape square again. White's king won't get checkmated on the back rank. So that's an important rule for everyone at home. Don't let your king struggle without breathing space. And also this white bishop stops the black knight from jumping into any annoying squares and a direct threat against black's central pawn.
Yeah, it's probably time for Wei Yi to start offering a trade of pieces. I'm thinking, first of all, he could step up with his rook to the 5th row, or maybe even the bishop. And he chose to do the the more aggressive option, attacking a pawn.
This pawn is attacked twice now by the black knight and black bishop. So critical moment. I think Aryan needs to make a decision, but how do you defend this pawn? That's the question. Do you have to bring your rook back maybe to defend it? Can you put a piece in the way, the bishop, for example? But this does allow just a trade, and I don't know if you can play this safely. If you take back with the knight now, then this is a fork. The 2 rooks attacked at the same time. If you take back with a rook in this position, okay, he's played it, so he's heading towards this direction. I was a bit afraid that there would be some knight jump attacking this rook and threatening to jump in here, but white can hold it all together by just retreating, covering this key square so the black knight can't jump in. Maybe it's just about okay.
There's also, I mean, black can also check in that line and take a pawn, but...
Yeah.
But that one I didn't think.
No, I don't think it's too bad because you don't want to swap pawns, but I mean, it's just another little concern that, you know, again, the more pawns you exchange, generally, when you're trying to win in such scenarios, the closer to a draw the position becomes because you've got less pawns to queen. And white would obviously better take on d5 here.
Yeah.
So that's going to be quite close to a draw, yeah.
Yeah, we could see a scenario where it's just 3 pawns against 2 pawns, and if the knights weren't on the board, it would be a dead draw. Okay, we're heading in this direction. Okay, Wei Yi goes back,
I like
keeping
this
more pawns on the board.
Yeah,
This is nice.
Yeah, this is very clever, isn't it? I mean, don't, you know, keep that pawn on the board. You've already got a pass pawn, so why allow it to be exchanged? It'd be silly. Still pushing for the win.
Yeah, it's going to be a long, difficult defence here for Tari.
And there is some good news for him, because I see the bar in the game between Nils Grandelius and Vidit is all the way over to Vidit's side, and Nils is only 2 points behind Aryan in that 9th place, Nils. So if he loses that game, well, at least he's not gonna go past Aryan on the table if he loses this or plays a draw, which is the most likely right now, or?
It's kind of 50% a draw, 50% a win for black.
Okay.
So it's somewhere between there.
Yeah.
And white winning is, I think, 1 or 2%, only a mouse slip or a massive blunder.
Yeah.
And of course, Aryan knows he will, or maybe he doesn't know because they usually don't check, but he's going to face Anish Giri, tournament leader, on fire in that final round. He's been a second for Anish several times, Aryan. So I guess in those games, often draws, right? Anish will be very happy with a draw.
Yeah. I think Anish, would he lock down top place in the prelims with a draw, Anish Giri?
He is 3 points ahead of Magnus, so yeah, a draw would be enough for Anish to lock in that first place.
Yeah, so it's so difficult for Tari right now.
Yeah.
If he knows if he draws this game and draws the last one, he's pretty much there.
Yeah,
but
not 100%, and he does have black against Anish as well.
Yeah. And he knows that first he needs to draw this game. I mean, in the back of his mind, he'll be worrying about his rivals' results, counting his own points, doing the calculations. It's so hard to focus on the moves sometimes when so much is going on around you.
Oof, yeah.
And a good rule of thumb there is just to focus on what you can do. Don't focus on the external events. You can't control that. Just focus on the moment in hand.
Yeah, I mean white would love to exchange knights here, wouldn't he? I was thinking if you're white here and you could just take the knights off the board, you'd breathe a big sigh of relief because the knight is so tricky, and the rook ending should be well, it is a draw, but I mean you still have to do a little bit of work, but it's not easy to get rid of black's knight at all here.
Yeah. I think he's done well though, Aryan, just to bring the white king closer to protect the pawns. Now we highlighted a couple of pawns as being weak earlier, and now those white pawns are nice and safe.
Time as well, 15 seconds now for Wei Yi, so he is up against that. I mean, Aryan's got a whole minute there, and he's just played okay, and yeah, I think he's doing a good job still defending this.
A couple of nice easy moves for white as well. That helps when you're low on the clock. It puts the pressure back on black. Some pawns now, targets on the 7th rank. White's rook's very active.
9 seconds.
Suddenly, I think a draw is the most likely result again.
6 seconds.
Oh, he needs to
has
move.
to move.
So this is an ugly move to play because suddenly you weaken the rank by your king, the 7th rank, and White could even get some counterplay now, and he's going for it.
And he is going
If that
for it.
rook comes in, then suddenly, and I think you can say, look at his face, he's more confident as well, I feel.
Wei Yi,
5
3
seconds, 3
3
seconds, 2
Oh.
seconds, 1 second, make a move. Yeah, he made it with
Oh.
2 seconds to spare. Oi, oi, oi.
Suddenly, I said 2-result game, but White's rooks, if they both reach the 7th rank, targeting pawns, going for the black king, anyone's game now.
He's done very well here. I mean, the time scenario. I mean, how much time did he have there? 2 seconds, right? Yeah.
White's knight can centralise itself. White's knight can park itself on an outpost in front of Black's passed pawn in the middle of the board. That looks like a automatic almost.
He's come in.
He comes in
Well,
first.
I wasn't sure about this one.
I mean, this also seems very tempting, doesn't it?
Just
to
back if he needs to.
But he has to go back, though, because his own 2nd rank is vulnerable. But maybe it's not a big deal. Maybe he can
It's
just give it up.
Yeah, I mean, Black's rook is very passive, and how does Black make any progress? And
Now he
second time we've seen this
centralised.
position.
Oh,
Okay,
Well,
we've repeated the position twice now.
Can they
Will
get a
Wei Yi
draw?
go for a win? If he moves the black rook at the top of the board back to the corner, it's the 3rd time and it's a draw.
I want to see an octo knight, though, David. I want Aryan to play on.
Okay, you want White to play on.
Yes.
Down a pawn.
Oh,
Will Wei Yi take the draw, though? Wei Yi, if he plays that move, it's a draw instantly.
17 seconds.
Okay.
Is he going to do it?
He brings the other rook back.
He's a very brave player.
Now my wish has been fulfilled. The knight has gone to the central square.
Suddenly, Black's rooks are terrible.
Yeah.
They were so good just 5 moves ago.
And the knight is threatening to come in either to f5 or to the e6 square. And I'm just thinking the 2 rooks can align themselves on the 7th row.
Getting nervous, Wei Yi. You can tell.
And now you can start attacking the knight.
Yeah, I suppose Black's going to get a rook behind that as well. I mean, I think it's still OK for Wei Yi, but he's
I
certainly...
don't know. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, Black is in no trouble if he just offers a trade of rooks. If one set of rooks comes off,
Yeah.
it's definitely a draw. But
Yeah.
I mean, it's definitely not Aryan fighting for the draw anymore. It's Wei Yi having to be a little bit careful.
Yeah, he's come in, and this is a good move. I mean, I think Wei Yi should be thinking about a draw very soon here, actually. The way
10 seconds as well.
The tide is changing.
9
Just get one set of rooks off the board. One set of rooks and there's no more danger.
Yeah.
Just trade. Yes, you might lose your extra pawn as Black, but at this point, Black's pieces are
1
just too
second.
passive.
Oof. Did he move? Just.
Yeah, he moved with 2 seconds to spare. Now I'm just thinking...
What happens if the knight comes in, yeah? I mean, OK,
the knight.
yeah, he's gone for it.
Yeah,
Here's
a
a
knight and
knight for
f5 will thrive. That's the rhyme we've coined, and the evaluation bar up in White's favour.
Wow.
I mean,
Okay.
it should still be a draw. Black's knight just can centralise itself.
You can start getting some cheeky ideas, can't you? Moving your H-pawn and trying to put the knight in around the black king.
Box in the king, you
Yeah.
know, because Black's pawn on d5 is ripe for the taking. You can win that whenever.
Or it
What
could...
is Wei Yi doing, though? Why is he not just trying to force a draw in this game?
It's crazy.
Seven
Trying to play for a win,
seconds.
but
it's
he doesn't
also
need to.
tournament situation. It's not just that. It's the tournament situation. I mean, he needs to get half out of the next 2 games to draw. So why is he risking anything? And he's OK. Now it looks like we might be getting that draw.
Okay, second time we've seen this position, repeating the position.
I mean, he can't play for a win here, surely. I mean,
Aryan should be the
No,
one.
I was
think
going to say
Jovanka's right.
Aryan is
Yeah.
going to be the one playing, and then I'm thinking about your idea there,
Look at the clock
Simon.
as well. Don't repeat Aryan. Push a pawn. Push one of White's pawns. OK, Aryan goes for the draw, but he had 2 minutes against 10 seconds.
Aha.
Oh, now Wei
Wei
Yi's the one
Yi's
playing for the win.
playing.
and now it's going to be a draw anyway.
Oh, okay.
So it's
There we go. The
Okay.
knights get traded, but White wins the pawn back. Level material and a draw after all of that.
Oh, look at that. That looks like a sigh of relief from Aryan Tari. He was in big trouble, but a draw here means he is still inside top 8, and it's looking quite good for him to qualify. But he's going to face Anish Giri in the final game. And should we take a look at it, David, this game? I mean,
This game, yeah, maybe just the final moments, because
Yeah.
we were talking win, draw, who should be playing for what, and Aryan was on the defensive for most of it, and just right at the end, when he took the draw, he brought his knight forward, the black rook moved, and he took this pawn off. We saw a trade of knights, and 3 pawns against 3 pawns. Rooks balance each other out. It's a dead draw, but he could have played on. Maybe if he was braver, pushed one of his pawns forward, as Simon and Jovanka mentioned, pushing this pawn forward as well, locking in this black king. I don't think White is risking anything at all. If anything, it's Wei Yi, with 10 seconds on the clock, who's fighting for the draw with black. Missed opportunity, maybe for Aryan. If he loses the next game, doesn't qualify, he'll look back on this moment.
guys, the final round in the preliminaries is coming up, and we're gonna follow Aryan Tari's fight to qualify for the quarterfinals. He's gonna face his boss, Anish Giri. He's been a second for him several times, and Anish is on fire. He is about to win the preliminaries if he gets a draw in that next game. Aryan is gonna be fighting for a win to secure a spot in the quarterfinals, and all games will start at the same time in that final round. One game is still going on in round 14. Hare Krishna about to win against Mishra. All games will start 10 minutes after that game finishes. The drama is definitely on, you guys. We're gonna build up to the final round in the preliminaries after a commercial break.
Gains that confidence, plays a few good events, stops looking inwards into his own insecurities.
I like the no expectation part, so like that's something that has gotten better because sure, it's like not my full-time job.
It's definitely good for chess in India, and now there is Olympiad also, so there'll be more people following and taking up chess as professional sport.
Yeah.
And it's surprisingly concrete still, no? Like, he takes d4, good move, this d takes d4, this d takes d5.
This line was essential and forced, but also not rocket science to map out.
Seriously? Checkmate. Aim Chess is an intelligent system that analyzes your game, prevents mistakes, and develops recommendations for improving your skill. Phew.
So we just race to the line. I'm definitely gonna crush it. Set, go!
When someone asks me how my chess game is going,
sometimes it may be good, sometimes it may be shit.
The drama continues in Chessable Masters final round in the preliminaries coming up in 7 minutes. It's going to be intense, you guys, but we also need to learn. So here is today's Lisaveta learning point.
And today's learning point is actually on a topic we've covered before several times, but even the top players in the world, they continue to forget about this really basic principle, and that is about looking for checks in every position. Here we have Liren with the white pieces, Erik Hansen with the black pieces, and temporarily black is one piece down. However, it's Erik Hansen's move, and he can regain the piece in one of two ways. He can take this bishop either with his rook, or he can take his bishop with the queen. And two options here. You have to take the bishop. Do you take it with the rook? Do you take it with the queen? Only one is good. Erik chose the wrong one. Taking with the rook would actually be a very strong move, kicking away the white queen, and the game would be balanced. The position would be level here. But instead, Erik, he took with the queen, simply forgetting about his opponent's check. Instead of trading queens here, maybe the move he expected, white doesn't have to take this black queen. White can flick in a nasty interference move, a check here, hitting the black king, and now no more protection of the black queen. This actually led to a winning position for Ding now. The only way to save this black queen is to give up the black rook. After rook takes knight, white simply recaptures, and white now has an extra rook for a bishop. So the lesson is always look for checks, especially when you're comparing two different moves. They might look the same, but one is usually better than the other.
All right, and this game, it ended with a draw between Ding and Hansen. Let's take a look at the results from second to last round and preliminaries in Chessable Masters with 5 minutes to go before the final round. Magnus and Anish, they played a draw, 2 players on top of the table. Vidit winning the game against Nils. Nils, one of the players fighting, also Vidit, to qualify. Hare Krishna eventually won that game against Mishra, and a super important win for Jordan van Voorhees against Gawain Jones, 3 points. That means Jordan still has a chance to qualify. It was a draw between David Anton and Mamedyarov, so the standings with 1 round to go is this. Anish Giri, with a draw, will secure the first spot in the preliminaries. Magnus Carlsen, he has to win and hope for a loss for Anish Giri to take that first place. Liren is in 3rd place. We have Pragnananda safe inside qualification. Wei Yi on 21 points, same as Mamedyarov, not secured. Those 2, and David Anton on 19, same as Aryan Tari, and then we have Hare Krishna 1 point behind Vidit, 2 points behind the 8th place. Nils is 3 points behind, same as Jordan van Voorhees. So let's be joined again by Ty, the stats guy. Okay, this is looking very dramatic, Ty. What is the situation now? Who can qualify?
So we have 6 players that are in, and 6 more players fighting for the last 2 spots in the final round. And of those 6 players who are fighting for those spots, 4 of them are playing each other. We have the Anton van Voorhees game and the Tari Vidit game, where both players still have chances.
Okay, so what is it? Okay, we have this one. Okay, take us through it, these percentages.
Okay, so those percentages were before round 14. I have not gotten a tweet out yet on the update. I'll have to do that after we talk. But where we are now, the Anton I'm going to start with, because if he beats Jordan, he's in.
Okay.
A win and he's in. But he is playing black, so that's no guarantee. He's also in good shape with a draw, 88%. But if he loses, Anton drops to 18% and needs to get really lucky in the other games, while Jordan, with that win, would be all the way up at 60%. And it is must win for Jordan.
Okay.
So that's that game. Then we have Tari Vidit, where Tari can also clinch with a win. If he wins, he's in. A draw leaves Tari at 74% and is still enough to eliminate Vidit. It's must win for Vidit. And if he does win, he's up to 58%. He becomes a favorite, but still needs help. And Tari is eliminated. Tari is at 14% then.
Wow.
So probably eliminated. And then that still leaves 2 other potential contenders. If Hare Krishna beats Shankland, he's 97% to get in. And a draw and a lot of luck could also do it in 21% range. And Grandelius is still technically alive. He has to win and get extremely lucky, but if he wins, he can qualify around 16% of the time.
Wow. Wow! We started out with 3 players fighting for that final spot, and here we are, 6 players fighting for those 2 final spots. It's going to be a dramatic round then, Ty.
It really is.
Fantastic. Thank you so much again for all your updates, and we'll see you again at a later time. Thanks for joining us. All right, so these are the games coming up in round 15. Erik Hansen against Magnus Carlsen, Mamedyarov against Ding Liren, and then a very important one, Jordan van Vries against David Anton. Another important one is then Sam Shanklin against Pentala Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna fighting to qualify. Vidit is also fighting, and he's going to face Pragnananda. Wei Yi against Nils Grandelius. But we will follow Anish Giri against Aryan Tari. Anish will be very happy with a draw in this one. But as we heard from Ty, Aryan, he needs to get a win to feel safe to qualify. So we're waiting for those players to arrive. 16 players getting ready for the 15th and final round in the preliminaries. After that one, 8 players will leave us and 8 will go through to the quarterfinals starting tomorrow. Anish Giri arrives, he's going to have the white pieces. So what do we expect? How can Aryan get that game into something he can win?
It's going to be difficult for Aryan Tari. I think a huge amount just depends on Anish Giri's mindset. If Anish wants a draw with white to secure first place in the prelims, it's going to be hard for Tari to win. Does he just allow a draw, take his chances in qualifying, or does he really burn his bridges with black? It's so hard.
Yeah.
Especially against someone so solid as Anish.
Yeah. What do you think, Jovanka?
I think that Aryan probably just has to play his own game and just see what the resulting middle game positions are like. You know, if it's very simple and it's a very comfortable equality for him, then, you know, okay, sometimes a draw is okay and better to take the chances rather than just kind of go all out, burn the bridges and have no chances for qualifying.
It must be very difficult situation, Simon. You know that a loss and you're probably out, a draw could be enough, but it could also be that you have to win it. It must be difficult to decide your strategy in the game.
Yeah, I mean, the best bit of advice, I think, like Jovanka said, is just to play your own game. Cliches again, isn't it? You know, it's a game of 2 sides, play your own game. But you should really just play your own game. He's got a 70% chance if he draws, so let's remember that, according to those stats. So it is a high-level chance if he draws. So draw's a good result, I think.
And Jovanka, you must be very happy with this choice of opening from Aryan Tari. It's a Caro-Kann.
It is a Caro-Kann. And actually,
it's one of the most trendy variations of the Caro-Kann. I'm not sure whether you play this so much yourself, Jovanka, but I've had this position myself. Okay, this white queen move is quite a trendy one. The white queen just lining up. White's pieces are very, very active. There was actually a small trick in the position just one move ago. White did offer a queen as a sacrifice just for one move while he was threatening checkmate. Maybe we can show this on the board. Quite a flashy idea there from Anish Giri, but it's still within the realms of opening theory. In this position, black was attacking the white queen. Instead of moving, white counterattacked. Anish brought his knight to the centre of the board, offering up his queen. But if the queen was taken, this would be a nasty checkmate. The king now trapped in the centre of the board. So, of course, Aryan would spot something like that. He studied this position before. He needed to block this bishop and its attack against this pawn. So he pushed his own pawn forward. And after this queen move, Aryan is thinking. In this position, he can develop his bishop to a nice square. Maybe, for example, here. I think I've seen this move before, pushing the pawn forward, attacking the black bishop. Black, for example, could bring the queen out, keep some pressure on this diagonal. One thing black doesn't want to do, however, is move his knight. Black's knight moving would again allow this checkmate. Very similar to Scholar's Mate, an opening all of us should know and learn when we're starting the game.
Party trick.
Party trick.
And I just want to mention, one game has finished with a draw. It's Mamedyarov and Ding. They are both qualified for the knockout stage, which is great. Mamedyarov with his super entertaining style, and Ding, the super strong player. And actually, right now, Ding in 3rd place. With that situation, he would actually face his fellow Chinese Wei Yi in the quarterfinals. And they have played so many games against each other lately. So that would be interesting if that happens. All right, we do have another move on the board. Does it look like Aryan is going to fight for a win in this game?
I think it's going to be quite a kind of imbalanced middle game. I don't think Anish Giri is playing for a draw. If Anish wanted a draw, he would have chosen a different type of opening. We might well see a situation with black castling on one side, white castling on the other side of the board, all-out attack. Anish has nothing to lose, really. He can just play for fun. But Yeah, I mean, they don't look like friends, right? They don't look like colleagues in the webcams right now. Anish, super focused. Imagine the tension if they work together in future, if Anish knocks out Aryan from the tournament.
Yeah, I mean, this is the thing I think we mentioned before, that when you're playing, you just got to turn off all your emotions, and after the game, it's a different thing, isn't it? You can't have emotions towards your friends when you're playing. You know, it's a separate thing. But I'm a bit surprised as well, though, David, they go for something so sharp. I assumed they might go risk-free, because again, a draw does seem a pretty good result for both of them, because Anish will come first, and Aryan will have 70% chance of qualifying. So, but it doesn't look like we're going to get a simple draw.
No, and already a critical moment. Is Anish Giri going to take the safe option? If he wants to just play risk-free chess, then the white king will castle on the same side as the black king. And then, OK, it will become about who puts their pieces on better squares, who can make the better exchanges, all the strategic stuff. If he wants to forget the strategic stuff, throw that out the door, breathe fire on this board, then white's dart square bishop might move, and the white king will go the opposite flank. Opposite side castling always ends up in chaos and attacks. And what do we think we'll see?
I think we'll see the white king not go to the opposite side of the board. I think Anish is going to perhaps play it relatively safe and just castle the king to the right.
That's more Anish's style, I think. Yes, he knows how to attack. Yes, he loves the dynamism, actually more now than ever. But yeah, it looks so unnecessary to spend a couple of moves trying to castle on the long side when white has a very healthy position. Just castling short, as we say, castling kingside.
I mean, you can still get an attack by castling kingside quite easily. White's pieces do seem very well positioned, and I like white's queen over there. I mean, it's quite a sort of unique square for the white queen, but when you do castle, that white queen can easily start to target the black king. I mean, we could just show, let's say, castling here, and again, I'm just going to show white's plan. So let's say black plays something irrelevant, and now maybe something like queen drops to a dart square over there, and let's say black plays something, and now the bishop can start coming in. Either bishop starts lining up against the king. This one looks very nice, and some key ideas here. And one more move. This is a typical attacking plan. Black plays something, and now the last bishop comes in. And this is kind of a setup well worth remembering, because you get this a lot in isolated pawn positions. And it's probably just winning this particular position, but knowing about those attacking formations with your pieces, patterns that you should remember, of course, and I'm sure there's plenty of chessball courses that will teach you that as well. Do remember to check out some of those courses. A lot of free ones out there as well.
The idea here, I should say, is that we want to checkmate on this h7 square, but first we need to remove the black knight as a defender.
And Simon, you mentioned Chessable, and our quiz of the day is actually, what is your experience with Chessable? And I do really like M. Grenier's answer, who says, I simply can't have a good day without Chessable. And here is what I look like when I study my courses. Yeah, look at that. Yeah, look at that.
Is that Magnus?
That is Magnus.
What is that?
I've never seen him do that. Is that actually... Really? Is that a made-up video, or is that him actually?
No, that's actually Magnus.
Okay, right.
Was that on the tour? Was that another event?
I don't know. Well, that's.
I don't know. I mean, yeah.
Okay. Oh, I hope we can see that again.
I want what he's having.
That's on the Champions Chess Tour TikTok, I'm being told. So go check out.
Oh, yeah,
TikTok.
definitely. Yeah.
Okay.
Do check out Champions Chess Tour on all social media channels and on TikTok and Instagram and Twitter. There's so much fun content coming out. We have some brilliant people just grabbing all those fun moments that we sometimes maybe don't notice on the show. A lot of behind the scenes as well. Yeah. So Twitter and Instagram and TikTok also. We're now on TikTok. Are you guys on TikTok?
No, there's just too many now. I mean, what it would be, Big Bok next week, and then it's like, I mean, I got Twitter, and I do a little bit Instagram. That's enough for me, definitely.
Yeah. So you do Facebook, no?
I got a Facebook Ginger Gym page, which I maybe update once every 6 months. So yeah. Okay.
There's also a David Howell Facebook page, which is really nice.
There is. Yeah. Pretty new.
A fan page.
It is a fan page.
Okay, good stuff. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Social media.
Yes, definitely.
The new world.
And whilst the players are thinking, well, maybe I can read a few more of our quiz of the day answers.
Yeah.
Tanushree says, it is difficult to describe my experience with Chessable in limited time and space, but I'm trying nonetheless. Chessable has helped me to experience the multiverse of chess learning. I love this expression, the multiverse. Sounds a bit like Doctor Strange. And there's still time to tweet your answer to the quiz of the day using the hashtag #ChessChamps. And of course, you have a chance to win a fantastic prize. It's a lifetime repertoire course on the Najdorf by the chap himself, Anish Giri.
Yeah, one of the big experts these days on the most popular, the most counter-attacking opening in chess for black.
Aha.
Sicilian Najdorf.
Yeah, I think it's worth pointing out as well that all these Chessable courses, if you don't want to buy them immediately, you can get the short and sweet. So these are brilliant. I mean, we had this guy earlier who mentioned you can just watch an hour, pretty much an hour overview of these openings for free. So it's a great way to get a feeling for what maybe course you want to buy rather than like diving in. They've all got 30-day money-back guarantees anyway. But I think the short and sweet is such a great idea because you can have a look at loads of different courses and see what you like.
It's not actually just the video. Well, I'm sure, it's not just the video. You actually get the move trainer as well. So you can practice on the short and sweet course.
Really?
Yeah. So you can practice and it will count towards your streak.
And they're all on G-Chess as well now.
They're all on
There's over 100 short and sweets on G-Chess.
Yeah.
So just
very nice.
.com.
And if you do like the course, then you can buy the whole Chessable course, and then you often get like 10-hour videos.
Yeah, or more,
incredible.
you know. So I think Wesley So's course, which is incredible because we saw he used this against Magnus to get some winning positions. So you can get all of Wesley So's analysis, which is incredible. But I think his video course is like 100 hours. So make sure you put away a couple of weeks there and make sure you have no social life for those weeks and just concentrate. But if you do, imagine how strong you'll become. I mean, you'll learn like Wesley. I mean, what a way to learn that you haven't been able to do in the past.
And one other thing that I kind of also wanted to highlight is that you can actually, it has some features like say highlight.com.
Sorry.
Chessable.com.
I was just saying, like, say you wanted to kind of just focus on Wesley's course, you can actually set the focus on that. So you can say, well, you know, maybe I've bought like 10 other courses, but okay, I will just study Wesley's. And if you're Chessable Pro, you can upload your own repertoire and you can run that through the Move Trainer. Wow. And what I really like about the Move Trainer is that it forces you to try to remember. And because it's not telling you anything, it's just saying, remember the move, you have to come up with your own way of remembering. And you have to come up for the reason why. And then that kind of like, oh, OK, now it makes sense. Yeah. And it's such a great tool.
Absolutely.
Meanwhile, sorry, guys, I have to chip in because I do think a critical moment has already arisen. And Anish Giri, he's played a really weird move, and I think it might backfire. I really like what Aryan has just done. Let's jump into the position to show, because clearly Giri chose this opening as white. It was white's choice. He was the one who raced to this position, but instead of playing the kind of safe, advantageous move we thought, just white's king castling, he brought the white queen back. But that is actually the 4th time this white queen has moved now, and yes, it's on a great square. Yes, it's on a very attacking square, but he's lost so much time, Anish, and that has been the trigger for Aryan now to break out in the centre. And suddenly this white knight is feeling really uncomfortable. If we see a trade of pawns in the centre, for example, then the black queen can jump out with a check, hitting the white king, and next move, queen takes pawn. Suddenly this pin is deadly. And I think actually black might win some material here. This knight, once he gets removed, once he gets taken, will lose protection of this bishop as well. So I don't think white can trade a set of pawns. Anish's idea possibly was to bring his bishop out. This looks really scary, using this pin against the black king, going for checkmate, trying to break through and trap the black king on this square. But black can defend this and gain time in the process by bringing his knight to the edge of the board, attacking the white queen, counter-attacking, but also, remember, defending this key square. White's queen would have to move here, and again, same problem for white after pawn takes pawn. Maybe Anish thought he could remove the black knight from the board, but a queen check is always going to be so annoying for white. This is a check, but also the white knight on the next move will simply drop off, will get captured. For example, if the white bishop drops back to block the check, queen takes knight, and after a queen trade, black has actually won a pawn, a very valuable pawn in the centre of the board. I don't really see what Anish's idea is at the moment. If we rewind to the current position, if he can't bring his bishop out effectively, if he can't take this pawn, does he have to sacrifice something? Either way, this pin is extremely annoying for him. and White's knight under serious pressure.
Yeah, I have to say, as a Caro-Kann player, I love Aryan's last move, and it's very, very thematic, and it's primarily because the White King stayed in the centre.
Yeah.
Lesson to you all. Keep your White King in the centre. This is the pawn break that Black is going to be going for.
Yeah, I mean, it's not about keeping your king in the centre. Sometimes you can, but it's just about the nature of the position. It's very open, and it's going to become even more open in the centre of the board. Just Anish there, I saw him slightly kind of blink and shake his head. Yeah, it's just about the position. If it's about to become open, you have to rush. You have to commit your king. I understand what he was doing, Anish. He didn't want to decide yet where to put his king, but I mean, he just didn't have that luxury of this one extra queen move. He'd already moved his queen 3 times. That's another general rule. Don't bring the queen out too early. If you do, don't waste too much time with her, especially in open positions. And the evaluation bar says only a slight advantage here for Black, but imagine how psychologically difficult it is. This is your opening preparation. One move after your knowledge ends, you have a disadvantage. You're worse. And you're struggling to even survive here for Anish Giri.
Wow. And imagine if he loses this game, first loss in the tournament, and it would be quite likely, actually, that he faces Aryan Tari in the quarterfinals as well. Could give Aryan some
Maybe
momentum.
it's all part of an evil plan. Yeah. Anyway, no, but the line that David highlighted is going to be played on the board. So there's only really one move for Black to defend against that checkmate, and that's for the knight to counterattack the queen.
Yeah, I'm trying to work out what I missed, but I don't really see it.
Nothing. I think.
No, I
I mean,
think so.
I think Anish has just made a mistake. Simple. I think moving. You can tell by his body language a bit as well. I feel that this Queen G3 was just a bit of a luxury too far. Had he castled, he'd avoid all these annoying checks that David pointed out. Black's Queen checking the White King is just a key idea in so many of these variations. And I think Aryan has got a great opening with the Black pieces here. He couldn't have asked for anything better.
Exactly. I mean, Aryan could seal his place now in the knockouts with a win here. And imagine, this is White's 13th move. Out of that, 5 of the moves have been with the White Queen. I mean, that's just breaking all the laws of chess. All of the advice we're taught when we're young. And yeah, I think Black can safely capture this white pawn in the centre of the board.
This is an interesting game, you guys, in hopes for qualification for the knockout stage. Aryan Tari with a win here will very likely be inside the quarterfinals. We are also paying attention to Hare Krishna's game against Shanklin. Bar seems to be in the middle. Vidit playing against Pragnananda. Bar seems to be in the middle in that as well. And Wei Yi against Grandelius. It's a must-win situation for Nils to have any hope. Bar slightly over to the Chinese player's side. And also Jordan van Foreest against David Anton. Both of them fighting for qualification. And it's a must-win for Jordan. And it does seem the bar is slightly over to his side.
Yeah, I've just taken a peek at some of those games. A lot of tension. You can tell the players are nervous because not many trades. Most of the pawns and pieces still on the boards in all of those games. And apart from David Anton, you mentioned there, all of the others you mentioned in must-win situations, in order to keep their fate in their own hands. And yeah, I'd be shocked if we see many more draws in this round. Ooh. Also, look at the evaluation bar in Hansen against Carlsen.
Look at that.
Magnus, is he on the brink of defeat?
Wow.
Again to Eric on the tour this season.
Kind of his bogey player, isn't it, in some ways? I mean, Eric, has beaten Carlsen before, which is quite an upset.
Unfortunately, Eric will not make it to the quarterfinals, but finishing with a win against the world champion would be a great way to end the tournament for him.
And meanwhile, we did see Anish kind of lean back, smile, and then kind of adopt this weird pose with his top. He knows that he's in big trouble. White is simply one pawn down. And there is a bit of tension on the king's side with the White Queen peering down at the Black King. Black's knight on the edge of the board is under threat. But maybe we can jump in to show that Black is still doing well in the current position. Black, for example, this knight is under fire. He could think of just giving a check, hitting the White King, gaining a bit of time, also protecting this knight on the edge of the board. And actually, it's still pretty complicated. The White Bishop, for example, could step back, blocking this check, but now Black does have the luxury of moving his queen. And maybe here, White, I think Anish's plan is to actually take this pawn with his queen, restore the material balance. We might be headed in this direction. White can win the pawn back, but White has lost so much time. And OK, this is the current position. Is Black's queen going to this square? I'm trying to look for other safe squares. Maybe you could go across to this square, but then black-queen trade, you would double your own pawns. Maybe you could even go back to this square, forget about your knight, just give it, but attack this white bishop. So much choice now for Aryan Tari.
It doesn't look too terrible, does it, for Anish? He's certainly worse because he's pawn down, but he's very likely to get that pawn back,
But
I think.
one thing that kind of springs to my mind is actually for the bishop to block off.
Okay, the black bishop could block this as well. That looks very good, actually.
Makes sense to swap pieces, doesn't it, as well?
Yeah.
I was just thinking, we have Anish a lot of days. He pops in after the last round, doesn't he, to have a little chat. So I'm just wondering if he loses this game, I bet you he's going to say, well, I couldn't have my second, not qualifying. I needed. We can just predict what Anish says. That would be quite a nice little challenge for each day if he does lose, I'm sure.
And if Magnus actually loses to Erik Hansen, then Anish, either way, with a loss, will win the preliminaries.
Yeah, and I mean, Magnus at this point, I think, would be lucky to draw, so Anish is almost guaranteed first spot. So this one is all about Tari and whether he can win. And this bishop block makes a lot of sense. Now is the decision time for Anish. He doesn't want to capture black's bishop because the black queen protects it and would give a check while recapturing. It must be time, surely, to commit the white king. I think it has to go on the long side.
I think you have to go risky now, don't you? Because your positions, it's a very common thing to do in chess and well worth remembering that if your position's starting to go wrong, you can take more risks because it doesn't matter as much. When your position's okay, don't take as many risks because why would you do that? But it has been going wrong for Anish. So castle queen side, make it more dynamic and take those risks. So I think a good choice here to do this.
And maybe you're right, Simon. Maybe that black pawn in the centre of the board is doomed. So maybe Anish will win his pawn back at some point. I can't see a way to keep it alive at the moment.
I can't see a way either, but as a Carlsen player, I wouldn't really care either if that pawn disappeared off the board. It's just about mobilising the light square bishop and centralising the rooks. And then, you know, I'm happy. Happy days.
Yeah, I mean, that position would still be full of tension. So it's just about whether Aryan can find something direct or whether he just has to go into a balanced middle game with chances for both sides. If white does win back this pawn in the centre and black, yes, black has time to get organised, but is that enough? Is there more? Depends how maximalist Aryan Tari wants to be.
No need to be maximalist.
OK, so what would you play here? You're the Carlsen expert. Jovanka,
Yeah,
let's jump in.
I would go bishop takes bishop and then just put the knight back. Or just put the knight back at some stage.
For example, trading?
Yeah.
And dropping
And
the
then
knight back?
just let the queen take the pawn, and then I would probably try to play for b5, push pawns.
Push pawns, gain time.
Yeah,
That's the
gain
key.
time, and then just develop the light square bishop. And I'm not saying this is winning, but just it's not a bad position.
That's a very good position for black.
Yeah.
Nice bishop, rooks coming to the centre very quickly. Yeah, I mean, at some point the black queen, I guess, will move out the way, and once the black queen, for example, moves. Maybe not immediately, but pawn storm incoming. This bishop may be a bit of a target. Yeah, it feels like a normal position, just black has got like a 3 or 4 move.
Yeah.
It's 3 or 4 moves better for black than it usually is.
This is the thing, because usually I get much worse versions than this, so that's why I'm like, yeah. and everyone's like, well, it's not that great. And I'm like, yeah, but it's better than I normally get.
Normally you might get this type of position, but with black's bishop still kind of locked in on its starting square.
Yeah, or maybe like I'm facing a pawn storm or something, you know, and
it's very hard for white to attack the black king here, isn't it? I mean, that's often a danger, I think, in the Carlsen, that white's got these tempos on the king side, but white's pieces are not very well positioned to get an attack against black's king.
Yeah.
So that is a key, certainly a key thing. I agree with you 100% here. It's just easier for black to play, and he might be going for it.
Yeah, so if we rewind to the current position here, Jovanka is advocating this move, which actually looks very, very logical, very sensible. Knights on the rim are dim, after all. So, yes, it's protected right now by the black queen, but you don't want to keep it on the edge of the board too much longer. And we're headed in this direction. The white queen under fire now. She might as well grab a pawn as she moves. And, yeah, this looks like a nice time gainer.
Should white try to swap the queens off? Because those positions, it just seemed like black's got such a nice attack. Yeah. And if I was white, I wouldn't really want to take that pawn because of this initiative that's just coming at me. Okay. So Queen G5, if you can win the pawn.
Yeah.
If you can, I don't know if, well, maybe you can take and go E5 though.
Yeah.
This is the big question,
Yeah.
whether black can keep his pawn in the middle of the board.
You've got rook E1, I was thinking, but then, I don't know, it gets very complicated, but if you can get your pawn back, then maybe this is a way to try and, but this is white, trying to equalise in these positions, so, and I'm not even sure you can get your pawn back, so it might not be good.
That's what Anish is thinking about. Queen takes pawn, grabbing the pawn back, or first trying to trade queens and heading towards a defendable endgame, maybe. Let's go back to the players. It's roughly balanced on the clock as well. This one, anything could still happen.
And it looks like Eric has dropped that advantage by the looks of it as well, unfortunately for him. So it's just in the balance there, that game, with Magnus.
Magnus, with a draw, will secure second place in the preliminaries. If he wins, he will have chances to take first place. If Anish loses this, Aryan fighting for a win. Do you think most likely right now this is a draw?
It's balanced, I would say. I think I would take black. I know Jovanka would definitely take black. It's a Caro-Kann after all. Simon?
Yeah, I think I'd definitely take black. I mean, black's position is to be preferred, I think, and after this move, it seems like only black can be better when the queens come off. But maybe this is a wise thing to do. And it's more a niche as well.
Yeah.
You know, niche doesn't like being attacked. He doesn't like those sharp positions. So this is more in his style to make some exchanges, try to get that pawn back and just hold it for now.
And actually, as soon as this move was played, I think it's a good move as well. Aryan immediately frowned. I don't know if this move was on his radar. It wasn't on mine until Simon mentioned it. And
It wasn't on mine either, so a good
very
move
clever
there.
move.
But I mean, I'm still wondering if you can win the pawn back, though. You must be able to, I guess, if Anish has played it.
I think
but you probably can, yeah.
And the one small thing I would say about Aryan is, OK, he's still young, he's a wonderful player, amazingly strong, but against the very top guys, he doesn't beat them so much, especially in classical chess, because he does respect them a little bit in endgames. I've seen him agree draws in positions where he has an advantage, no risk, and could play on for a long time. So there's a lot of respect. So I think maybe Anish is trying to play on that factor rather than some really complicated middle game like we mentioned. He just wants to trade the queens and say to Aryan, OK, I can defend this position. A draw's OK with me. What do you think? And there we go. The queens have left the board. Now, can black keep his pawn in the centre? That is the question. If he can't, then white should be OK. OK, he just develops his bishop, doesn't bother trying to hang on to his pawn. I think, yeah, you need to just get your pieces out. Very logical move there for black.
But somehow, you know, I was going to say, with the queens off, this kind of feels like it's totally level now. Like all the excitement has kind of gone.
Definitely, yeah. I think it's quite wise for Anish to go into this, actually. I don't think he'll be too concerned anymore. And, yeah, I mean, you must get these endings all the time, right? I mean, this kind of structure, when you play the Caro-Kann.
You must too, Simon, from the French defence.
Yeah, this is more Frenchy.
I don't really ever play these positions in the French because you
like to keep it blocked up.
Yeah, it's more when you push going for the sort of some other variations that I don't play. But it's very common. And again, I'd say for anyone out there trying to learn an opening, do remember, obviously, you start with Chessable, you learn the courses there, maybe combine a bit of gchess.com. And then once you've done that, you've got to look at the pawn structures and just work out what kind of ideas, where your pawn should be, what pawn structures are good for you and what are bad. So kind of just thinking, looking at the position, asking yourself why, what, all the whys, really. So a lot of people don't even do that when they learn an opening. They just go into it and they're like, OK, what do I do now? And you should know that already when you go into a position.
They'll be like, oh, computer says 0.7 for black. That must be good.
Yeah.
But what next?
Yeah,
that's the big question.
And then they could just go totally wrong.
Yeah.
So it's really important to know the plans when you're learning an opening.
I'm slightly surprised Aryan rushed to trade a set of rooks. I didn't think there was any need to rush. Yes, it's still completely fine, but if all of the rooks disappear from the board, then maybe that helps white. White does, after all, have this 3 versus 2 advantage on the left half, and it's harder for black's king to come across to kind of stop those pawns if they do start advancing. We call that an outside pawn majority, and typically having those outside pawns is a little bit of a plus for white long term. So here I'm expecting Anish to just bring his other rook to the centre of the board and say, OK, let's get all of those pieces off. Let's get rid of all the heavy pieces, and it's just a minor piece endgame, bishops and knights. But, OK, if Anish wants to win, maybe he'll just retreat the white knight or retreat the white bishop, push a pawn. Lots and lots of choice. It's definitely balanced now, though. definitely heading towards calmer positions.
I suspect that he might offer a trade. What do you think, Simon and Dave?
Yeah,
makes sense as well.
I mean, it's not a bad idea. I mean, it's often I've agreed that white probably even slightly better here, because if you trade off the rooks, it's who can get the pass pawn, the most dangerous pass pawn, and black's king is a long way away from white's free pawns on the queen side, so it's always white who's a little bit better in those endings, I feel. I mean,
still very balanced.
Yeah,
but...
very balanced. I say better, but he's not really better, is he?
Okay, he doesn't want to rush. Okay. He just retreats his knight. The knight was going to get kicked at some point, and yes, the knight's on a terrible square right now, but it's going to reroute itself to the centre. And I think you do have that luxury here. White does have a few moves. Black has no threats.
Yeah.
So that white knight will recentralise itself soon. And meanwhile, looking at the other results, it looks like Hare Krishna, who needed to win, he's in big trouble against Shankland.
That's true. That is very bad news for Hare Krishna. If he loses that game, he will not make it to the quarterfinals.
Good news for Aryan Tari.
Yeah.
Hare Krishna loses.
Absolutely. We are definitely following that game. We're also looking at Vidit, who probably needs a win. Well, he needs a win against Pragnananda to qualify. Gradelius is also in a must-win situation. And, of course, Jordan van Foreest against David Anton. The winner in that game Jordan isn't secure even with a win, but he has to win it. David Anton wants to take a point at least in that matchup.
Okay, and meanwhile, this position is just about quiet, deep, sophisticated moves.
You must be enjoying it.
Yeah, I mean, I would be normally if I was playing the position, but watching it, I want to see an attack.
I was going to say that before, well, I better not. You know, I was like, you know.
I mean, I like these types of positions in general, but yeah, and the last round of the prelims, yeah, I want something a bit spicier.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it had so much promise, didn't it, as well?
So much promise.
So much promise. But I mean, I like this move G5 that Aryan Tari has done. And again, we're talking about Keith Arkard. This is Keith's favourite move, G5. And I remember Keith saying it was quite interesting that if black's ever able to play G5 in any position at all, opening, middle game or ending, he's always doing okay, which is obviously a bit of an exaggeration, but his point was G5 is a real luxury of a move, because when you play it, your king's got to be safe, you're gaining space. So it's quite a good indication, actually. If you can play G5, normally you're doing all right, and I like this way of gaining space for black on that area of the board. It looks like a very nice plan here.
Yeah, and you also mentioned Keith, and he loves having this 4 against, for example, these 3.
Oh, he'd win so many endings like this. He has done. I mean, he loves this kind of structure.
And here we go. The pawns are moving. The pawns are mobile. This pawn is about to step forward. I'm getting confused with the colour of my arrows there. But yeah, the pawns are stepping forward. And okay, Anish, he predicted this, and he's centralising the white knight. And the white knight has gone on a real journey in this game. It actually stood on this square, when was it? On move 13. So it stood on this square 13, 14 moves ago. It's done a huge little circle. It kind of went from this square, it went back, round, and it's coming back where it came
really?
from.
Oh, it's a heart.
Almost a heart.
Oh, a little fox.
Little fox.
A bit of a broken heart there, isn't it? A sort of something...
Heartbreak?
Oh, maybe. Yeah, heartbreak, maybe, yeah.
Or a Pac-Man.
An unhealthy heart. But yeah, the knight's coming back to this dream square, and okay, Aryan just created a little home for his bishop to sit in, and this knight looks nice and glorious, but it's not really hitting anything. Everything it's hitting is defended for now, so black at some point will centralise the king. Black will start pushing one of these 2 pawns. It's still balanced. It's still very hard for either side to break through, but it's definitely easier for black's pawns to push than it is for white's pawns to push on this side, while the rooks remain. And
so is Anish's plan then to get the rooks off?
Possibly. The only downside if you trade the rooks now, it actually makes it easier for the black king to enter the centre of the board. While rooks remain, the black king is maybe a bit scared of doing that, a bit hesitant. But yeah, I mean, I'm expecting the rooks to come off sooner or later.
Okay.
And still balanced. Maybe both players, they'll just keep this game going for as long as possible. And you never know. Maybe Aryan's got one eye later on the other results. I think they are allowed to go and check the other games as they're in progress. But it does take time, of course, and with 3 minutes on the clock, not easy.
Well, that's an interesting strategy, though. Just keep the game going and take a look at the other results.
Yeah, and it does feel like Aryan's playing for the win. I mean, otherwise he wouldn't need to touch these pawns. He's making big commitments with them.
Yeah, I like what he's doing. I mean, he's playing very proactively, which is good. And yeah, it's quite funny when you say looking at other results. I mean, while this game sort of develops, I mean, it's going to be a long game here. They're getting a bit shorter of time. Where sometimes when you're playing in a competition, I've had some very funny incidents when you have the demonstration boards, which are sort of up there and the top boards, and you could be playing on board, board 10, and suddenly you forget what move you're playing, and you notice, oh look, David Howe's got the same position as me. Maybe I'll just chill out a little bit, wait and see what David does in this position. And you kind of play, you see funny examples of players actually doing that, and it's very, very weird. This has happened before in Hastings, the British Championships, with other players as well.
Is there a famous story as well with when the Argentinians launched a surprise on the Soviets?
Yeah.
Yes, they
in the Sicilian Najdorf.
In the Sicilian, the Soviets all waited for the strongest player to come up with a solution.
Yeah, and
right.
It happened just a few years ago in the Isle of Man. Two boards next to each other, exactly the same first 20 moves. And then at some point, you could tell one player, he had no idea what to do. He was just waiting. His clock was ticking. He kept looking over, waiting. Eventually, the guy made a move. He immediately copied it.
Oh.
And,
didn't they have to move? Oh, sorry,
yeah. The arbiters had to step in and move one of the boards to another room, just so they couldn't copy.
Oh, the poor guy. He was like, oh, no, what do I do? Yeah,
and he burned half his time before that moment as well.
And Shanklin has won the game against Hare Krishna. That means Hare Krishna is out of contention for qualification, and it actually also means Aryan only needs a draw in this game.
Okay,
so according to Tai, a Hare Krishna loss appears to allow Tari to clinch qualification with a draw, and also allows David Anton to qualify 96% with a draw.
Wow.
So do you think Aryan will know that, and will he see it, and will he now just accept maybe a draw?
We haven't seen any facial kind of gestures from either player. I
mean, how do you draw that? I mean, it's easier just to play, isn't it? Because I don't know if they can offer draws so much, and they've just got to play. Yeah. So it's like maybe you don't want to think about the other results as well. It's like, do you, don't you?
Distracting in a way.
It does, yeah, because you might then play differently to what you normally do. It's still in the balance this, though, right? I mean, this is still, it still seems like it's equal.
Yeah. Would you, so now that we know this, a draw is enough for Aryan. Should we consider jumping over to Jordan van Voorhees? I see the bar jumping up. Must win for him.
We could do, I mean, if this game between Anish and Tari, if it's going to be decisive, it's going to go on for a long, long time.
Aha. So we can go back to it.
We could maybe come back to this one.
Yeah, let's move, please.
Yeah.
Enough of this ending.
The other game is really complicated. Lots of heavy pieces on the board.
We're jumping over.
Okay, yeah. Jumping over.
Yeah. So this is a must-win situation for Jordan to qualify. For David Anton, a draw is probably enough.
Yeah, and that's the thing. We see on the top of the screens, Jordan has 16 points, David Anton has 19. But if Jordan wins, they both have 19. And I think the top tiebreaker is head-to-head.
Yeah.
So in the head-to-head, Jordan will have won. So, yeah, it's one or the other is going through.
Interesting. And, well, what does it look like on the board? The bar is definitely over to Jordan's side.
Yeah, it's very tense. It could still go either way, but I guess the reason the computer at least likes white right now is because black does have these ugly pawns in the middle of the board. If you look on the E file, black has doubled isolated pawns there. So if everything else being equal, even if we see lots of exchanges, those pawns are a long-term advantage for white. So, OK, he keeps the knights on the board. This is actually the second time I think we've seen this position, or actually very similar to this position. Jordan, though, needs to win, so he pushes a pawn forward. Is white's king loose? Are black's pieces attacking, or are they just kind of standing by, just kind of just spectators at this point? Because black's rooks, they look great, but they're just hitting against concrete.
Yeah, I have to say they are hitting against concrete, but I don't see the plan for black. I mean, I don't see what to do. I think he just has to wait for Jordan to come up with a plan and deal with it accordingly.
Yeah, I mean, maybe white can move both his rooks over to the king side. I'm always looking at pawn breaks. When you've got these positions like this, yeah, it looks very nice for white because he's got his concrete formation. But if you have to win, you have to do something. And pawn breaks are a great way to try and change the nature of the position. So I'm immediately drawn to G4 at the right moment. And that's the kind of plan I'd be trying to play by, getting the king out of the way, just bringing my rook somehow behind it. And at the right moment, trying to break by getting the rook along the line towards the queen and the king. That would be my thinking, but also the time situation is really in Jordan's favour here. He's got 5.5 minutes to Anton's 45, and that's makes a big difference in such situations.
Wow, it's David Anton who's going for the attack, I think.
Yeah.
It's funny, Simon, different styles that we have. You're looking on the king side towards the white king. I'm looking in the centre, maybe. This one is double-edged because you help black remove one of his weaknesses, trade it off. But if you can expand in the centre, gain space, you can maybe switch your attentions later to the other side of the board. But yeah, after white's knight move instead, a bit slow, a bit strange. Black's queen has shuffled across, and now maybe David Anton's the one who wants to blow open the king side by pushing pawns forward.
Maybe you swap queens in here. Sorry, I'm just thinking. I don't like this counterplay that black gets. When you're in control, you don't want to allow your opponent, in this case black, to have those attacking chances. So I want to cover that square.
Just move the queen up maybe and offer this trade. And if the queens come off, it's very one-sided. White is the only one who can win because of the better pawn structure. For example here, these two doubled ugly, ugly pawns. So that's what we're expecting. But Jordan, it's not his style to trade queens. And remember, he's in a must-win situation. So
could he go for your break? I mean, that's the other option. Maybe he does.
For it.
He has, yeah, this is more Jordan, isn't it? And also opening, if black plays the pawn in front of his king, it really also opens his king a lot.
Yeah.
And we do have a draw between Anish Giri and Aryan Tari. That means Anish Giri is the winner of the preliminaries. And it also means that Aryan Tari is ready for quarterfinals. Wow, that's going to be the first time for the Norwegian number 2. That must mean a lot to him, that result.
Yeah, and meanwhile, this one is completely crazy now. Look at all the pawns. It looks so random, the pawn structure. You'll never, ever see this in another game, this pawn structure now. And whose king is weaker? That's the question you asked, Simon. Black's king is super open now, but he's also opening up lines towards white's king there. And
yeah, I mean, you can grab a pawn here for white, and by capturing in the centre. But I mean, it's just getting very complicated now at this moment in time. With you say which king is weaker? That's a simple question. And just to remember the qualification, this is the last round, and I think it goes that Jordan needs to win, and he will most likely qualify. But if David Anton draws or wins, then he will qualify. So it's a real tense game, this one.
Imagine David Anton, he only needs a draw, but he's playing some of the most kind of risky attacking chess out there. I know he's got so many fans in Spain and in South America, and nowadays living in Dubai. Yeah, but I'm not sure this is the kind of best strategy when you only need a draw. 30 seconds and it's just chaos on the board.
It is, and I was just thinking whilst you were talking, how is white going to neutralise this attack? Because my instinct is get the queens off as quickly as possible, but any trades that you make seem to help black.
Yeah.
But then again,
Let's just jump in because it's definitely not easy. Jordan burning a lot of his time on this one move. And Simon mentioned earlier, you can grab a pawn. You can play pawn takes pawn here in the centre of the board. I don't think black can really recapture. If you take back with one of the knights, then actually after a trade, at the very end, pawn takes pawn, and this is a fork. This pawn, remember, is defended by white's knight, so white would win material. So instead of recapturing here, black is going to say, OK, you want a pawn, but now you have doubled pawns. And black will just switch his rook across and suddenly staring down at the white king. And, OK, we've seen a whole bunch of trades in this position. We saw white's knight capture, and after a trade, suddenly the black rook did switch across, and after another trade, this is the key moment. If white takes, this looks so dangerous. Black's queen and rook lining up against the white king. He's paused, however. Does he need to trade knights? Maybe he can now go for this queen trade, push his queen to one of these squares on the diagonal, and try to trade off queens if the black knight moves. Oof, it does look scary, but especially for this white king now. But maybe it's OK for Jordan.
And
that's what he's going to play.
I do have an update. So, wow, in the Vidit Pragnananda game, that bar is going back and forth. Now it's over to Pragnananda's side. And it is a win for Pragnananda. Wow, that means Vidit is now out. With that win, he could have actually qualified, and it could have made sure Jordan couldn't qualify. But that turned it around quickly. So now Vidit is out. So chances are now growing then for Jordan van Vries. If he wins this game, he still has to win it.
So Jordan had to win this game and have all the stars aligned for him.
Yeah, and the stars are aligning.
It must mean he's going to win now with all the other results going his way. It often happens that way. But I'm just trying to think of the chances he had. It was like 10% or something.
It was low.
Yeah.
But okay, Jordan, with a win, the bar is over to his side. Someone that is ready for quarterfinals is Aryan Tari. And we're joined by Aryan. Congratulations, Aryan.
Thanks.
What are you feeling right now after just a marathon to qualify for the quarterfinals?
I feel really good. It means a lot for me to qualify. I played in this event 2 times before and I didn't manage. It's really, really hard. Actually, when I drew my game, I wasn't even sure if it was enough, but I just saw that Vidit lost, and if he would win, he could take me. So
yeah,
it's very nice.
Definitely. And what has been the difference then? Now, obviously, you had a long winning streak with a fantastic day yesterday as well. So what has been the difference this time that you're now making it to the knockout stage?
The 2 first days was really bad for me result-wise. It was not looking great. But actually, I wasn't playing so bad chess. I was just messing up a lot of winning positions and losing some positions which I could have saved. So in terms of points, the 2 first days was like disaster. But I tried to just reset and kind of start a tournament from scratch in my head from day 3. And I think I managed to reset well and just played very well. And once I started to win some games, I just got much more confidence.
And we're seeing some dramatic stuff happening in the game between Jordan and David Anton. We're going to address that very shortly. I just want to ask you quickly, Aryan, because it's not unlikely that you're going to play Magnus in the quarterfinals. So what will that be like?
Wow,
if that
I didn't know that.
Yeah, it's definitely not unlikely.
That's really cool. That would be very interesting.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, no matter who it is, Aryan, we wish you best of luck and congratulations again for making it through.
Thanks a lot, Kaja. Thanks.
Thank you. All right, I saw your eyebrows skyrocket there, David. What's happening?
Jordan has completely blown it. He missed one of the most incredible, surprising tactics you will ever see in this position. Black has sacrificed a rook, and look, Jordan's smiling. He knows he's about to get eliminated because suddenly white's rook is going to come over and pin the black queen. He thought he was winning. He thought he's going to end up a rook up, but black can give up his queen with a check and win the white queen next move. White's queen is going to disappear. White's king under checkmating, in checkmating danger as well right now, and it's a turnaround. Miracles for David Anton. I don't know how he pulled this one out of the bag. This is a beautiful tactic, and I haven't shown it yet because I think we'll see it on the board in a moment. Jordan, though, his chances have disappeared. I think he's the one fighting for the draw now, but a draw is not enough for Jordan van Foreest.
Oh, wow. Well, great news for David Anton. Who can actually then climb quite a lot on the table if he wins this game. Okay. This is the final game going on.
We didn't see one of the rooks move across and pin the black queen, so maybe we'll show that a bit later, how David Anton tricked Jordan there, but now he's given up the queen. And it's a queen for 2 rooks. Black's queen here, though, is so active and white's king is open. Normally, the 2 rooks can fight quite well against the queen, but the maximum Jordan can hope for here is a draw. White's king too open.
And we are joined also by Jordan's fellow Dutchman, Anish Giri, who is the winner of the preliminaries. Wow, congratulations, Anish.
Thank you, thank you.
You must be so happy with the way you played in these 4 days.
Yeah, though always the last thing remains, and I have a horrible aftertaste from my last game. 2 things. First of all, I mixed up the opening so terribly, so stupidly. It looked so stupid what I did. But it was, in some line, it was a move, but it was not here. And then in the end, I had a tactic. I don't know if you guys spotted, but at one point, he blundered out of nowhere a tactic, and I could have won there. So I'm a bit bummed with that, but otherwise, of course, fantastic. Today, I was really happy with the first win. Like this h5 move, it was so beautiful. I was really happy to have played it.
And in the quarterfinals now, actually now it could maybe be Aryan Tari, your second that you're going to face, or it's going to be a David Anton. Who would you prefer?
Okay, I'm happy with either. I expected it to be Jordan, actually. But let me check the standings with you. Are they going to be... No, but David Anton... if it's a draw, then it's 20. And David Anton lost, so it's going to be David Anton who I'm facing. He lost to Aryan Tari before.
Yeah.
By the way, wait. Jordan is not finished yet.
Yeah, it's turning around again.
He has not finished yet.
What's
It's turning
happening?
around. It's turning around. It's turning around.
David Anton, it's because he had no time on the clock, and he's just kind of helped drive the White King forward. White's rooks suddenly look much better than they were. Prediction now, Anish. Prediction for this game.
Okay, I think 1-0. Oh no, Queen E3 is a very good move. Okay, then I think I can draw. But to be honest, I mean, it's such freestyle. Some of the games are such incredible freestyle. But I think we do play better than the Grand Chess Tour, which is taking place earlier in the day. Also a great event, but they play over the board. I think then with the over the board, the seconds and pieces falling and everybody losing on time, I think we have more controlled games a little bit with the online format. But still, yeah, the crazy games today. All the games were crazy. This one is still not over, but I guess it's within still. But it looks so dubious already what Black has got himself into. I don't know. Very exciting.
Very exciting. And we're very excited for you, Anish, playing great chess. And we wish you best of luck in quarterfinals tomorrow.
Thank you.
Thank you
guys
for joining us.
Look what's happened. There's something really dramatic has happened here. I think. Why didn't he go forward?
Why did he even had to go forward?
I don't understand. Look at the evaluation bar. It just shot up. He could have won in almost one move. He was checkmating Black, right?
Yeah. Why did he go back? I don't understand it. So.
Yeah. I mean, he wants to somehow lift up White's rook from the F file and somehow place it on the H file. Imagine that Black King. It's cut off. It's trapped. But he can't do that anymore. He could have done it by going forward, and now Black is going forward. Ooh, has he blown his opportunity? Still super risky for that Black King. I don't know, is that Black King going to survive? Anish was sceptical, to say the least, about that Black King. David Anton, every game I see of his, it's just chaos. The evaluation bar is shooting back and forth, back and forth. Not only does he make mistakes, but he provokes mistakes. And Jordan there making a mistake, not going forward with the White King. And where's that White King going? All the way back home.
I suspect that maybe the rook is going to go to the H1 square, a la Anish Giri. But, OK, David Anton's saying no.
Is it worth showing that move where maybe he was possibly winning? I mean, the game is still going on here. White's got to win. It's probably, White needs to get his rook to a checkmate position, but we'll see. Yeah. But in this position here that David's bringing up, well, what do you think, David?
Yeah, he went back, but surely the instinct should always be to go forward. Always go forward if you can. Here, the White King is going to get checked anyway, but it's more important to check the Black King. And the Black King is actually trapped, no matter where it goes now. After a check, hitting the Black King, and after another check, I think you're going to win by lifting your rook up the board. I'm not sure exactly where you put it. For example, if you put it here, the Black King actually has no escape squares, and no matter what Black does, checkmate is coming. White's King is actually going to go up the board. For example, a check, the White King goes forward, and sooner or later, this Black King is simply trapped. You need your King in this attack. In the meantime, if this was a missed opportunity for Jordan, he would have won. In the meantime, if we go back to the current position, the Black King now is the one marching up the board. White's King does not help in the attack. And the problem is, no matter where you try and checkmate the Black King from, if you try and go behind, using the lawnmower checkmate, you do allow a series of checks against your own king. This one should be a draw now.
Wow. And it's going to decide who Magnus Carlsen faces in the quarterfinals as well. First of all, congratulations with finishing off with a win, Magnus.
Thank you.
Are you paying now attention to this game to sort of figure out who you will meet, if it's going to be Aryan Tari or Mamedyarov for you in the quarterfinals?
No, yeah, I'm looking at the game. So what are the implications if Anton wins, then I play Mamedyarov or what?
Yep, that's correct. So am I not correct? Yeah, if Anton wins, you're going to play Mamedyarov. If it's a draw or a win for Jordan, you're going to play Aryan. Correct?
If it's a draw for David Anton, he qualifies though.
Yeah, but then David Anton has the same score as Aryan, but Aryan won their encounter, so Aryan will be in 7th.
Okay.
Yeah. Complicated stuff. But what do you think about the position you're seeing? Is it hopes for Jordan to win it, Magnus?
Oh, that would take a pretty serious blunder. I mean, Jordan has, as far as I can see, has perpetual check here, so if I was him, I'd go for that, but I'm not him, and he doesn't go for it, so... But I think it's still very much a draw.
Okay. And actually, I switched it around. It was Anton who won the game against Tari, so you would face David Anton. Wow. It's craziness. Yeah, but Magnus, how do you feel about your play? First 4 days in the preliminaries or in the tournament?
I thought days 1, 2, and 4 were kind of iffy, and then day 2 was good. So not too thrilled.
All right. And we know you're in Denmark. We saw you played some paddle before it all started today. What are you doing in between games and rounds here?
Not too much.
Enjoying yourself?
Always enjoying, of course.
All right. It's good to hear. And whoever you will face, Magnus, we wish you best of luck in the quarterfinals.
Thank you.
All right. Chaos. But if this is a draw, which looks very likely right now, then Anton will take 7th place and Aryan will be in 8th place. Okay. Crazy stuff.
So Magnus likely to play Anton at this moment in time.
Yeah.
The Black Queen is just going to deliver a series of annoying checks. I don't see where the White King's going to hide. Simon, chances disappeared now for Jordan?
Yeah, it looks like it's going to be a perpetual check now, I would have thought. I mean, Black's king is very, very active as well. It holds a lot of squares, and you just keep checking, I think. Maybe there's some way that White can avoid it, but he's going to have to really misplace his pieces. And let's remember, Black only needs to get a draw here, so he doesn't need to try pushing for a win in any circumstances, which would just be crazy. So I think it will be a draw.
Yeah, I agree. I don't see any way, like you suggest, of White getting out of this. And he puts his rook on the first row. Queen will give a check.
Yeah, where is that White King hiding? I don't
Maybe
really
the king will take a step up. No, okay.
Now the Black Queen can go into the corner of the board, actually next to the Black King, force the White King back where it came from, and just repeat the position. If Anton wants a draw. He hates draws, though, I should mention about Anton. I don't know if he knows the tournament situation. Is he aware that a draw is good enough for him right now?
Do you think he might be tempted to step the queen backwards and grab some pawns and, you know, try for more?
Knowing him, maybe. But as Simon said, it's just madness to go grabbing. OK, he does give one check. It's madness to go grabbing those white pawns. They look nice and juicy. But if the white rooks do coordinate, then the Black King is also trapped. You've got to be slightly careful. Jordan here, I think he's just trying to keep a poker face because he knows Anton can take the draw if the Black Queen comes down to the second rank. We've seen that position before. OK, that is a check. Now the Black Queen just goes up 1 square, check again along the diagonal. No way the White King is escaping these checks anymore. And I think we'll see a result any moment. Looks like Anton is about to confirm his qualification.
And he will then take that final spot in the quarterfinals. It will be over for Jordan Fanfor. It's been very up and down for Jordan in this tournament. Anton, he had a fantastic start, and then it hasn't been the best finish, but enough to get him through to quarterfinals. Will that be a first for him, or have we seen him in...
Anton?
Yeah.
No, we saw him qualify in the Charity Cup.
In the Charity
Cup. He played
Cup,
against Duda.
Yeah.
And he did very, very well.
Yeah, that's true. Aha. But it's going to be a tough one for Anton in this one then. With a draw, he will play Magnus Carlsen.
Yeah, and that draw is about to happen. You can see on Jordan's camera, he's talking to himself. He's written off his hope. And actually, Black can confirm the draw, I think, now by bringing his queen back to the centre. And Jordan, his camera's suddenly gone dark. He minimised the board there. And have we seen the result?
I think we have.
There it is. It's a draw.
Lights off for Jordan Fanfor. He is knocked out of Chessable Masters. Anton makes it through to quarterfinals to face Magnus Carlsen. And I bet he's going to be very motivated to play some great chess in that matchup. That means we're finished, you guys. Wow, the preliminaries in this tournament. It's been a lot of fun.
It always is.
Yeah.
It always seems to be so close, fighting for those final spots. I mean, one move decided it in that last game. One move always seems to decide it. That's how strong and how close all of these players are.
Should we take a look at that one move while we wait for a comment from Anton?
Yeah, and I just want to rewind to earlier in the game because it did look like Jordan Fanfor, he was on the brink of victory. He was just 1 or 2 accurate moves away. And here, White has so many pawns in the middle of the board. But the key thing is to keep your king safe. And he could have done that by bringing his king to the edge of the board. And White's king here, sitting on the edge of the board, would have been perfect. Safe as houses, and at the right moment, you start pushing your pawns forward. I think here, White would have been winning. Yes, Black can remove one pawn from the centre, but that's irrelevant. The other White rook is going to come in. The White pawns are going to start motoring forward. It's just game over. Instead, Jordan fell for one of the dirtiest, one of the luckiest, trickiest traps you will ever see after he brought his rook across. Suddenly, rook takes pawn, giving up a rook. But this isn't the trick. It looks like the White king is super safe, hiding now on the edge of the board. And after this rook move, coming down, threatening the White queen, and also threatening some nasty checkmates. For sure here, Jordan, he was convinced he would win with a move such as this one, bringing the White rook across, pinning the Black queen and winning the Black queen. But he had missed a check, a nasty check. This queen can actually fall on its sword, give itself up, give this check, and after the rook takes it, suddenly another check from Black. The White king has to move, and the White queen falls. This rook endgame is actually winning for Black, and it was just this trick, this one check he had missed, and that is what turned around the game. He managed to draw in the end, he managed to hold the draw, but one trick, and he's out of the tournament, Jordan van Frijst.
Yeah, wow. David Anton, he must be so excited. We are hoping to get a comment from him after drawing that game, taking him through to the quarterfinals. While we wait, let's take a look at the results from round 15, final round in the preliminaries. Magnus Carlsen eventually did win to gain 3 points against Erik Hansen. Gawain Jones finishing off with a win against Abhimanyu Mishra. He must be very happy with that, Simon.
Yeah, it's nice to see. I mean, I'm just, you know, this day is always so exciting. There's so much going on. And yeah, Gawain, if only he'd done that earlier on in the competition, it would have been brilliant, because he could have been up there qualifying as well. Maybe next time. But anyway, what have we got in store though? We've got loads of exciting stuff in store, haven't we, over the next coming days?
Yeah, definitely. And Sam Shanklin winning the game against Hare Krishna to end Hare Krishna's hopes of going through, and Pragnananda ending Vidit's hope of going through, winning that game. And then Wei Yi, he ended Grandelius' hopes of going through. 3 points to Wei Yi there. And as we saw, a draw between Anish Giri and Aryan Tari was enough to take Tari through. And a draw between Jordan and David Anton was enough to take David Anton through to the knockout stage. So final standings in the preliminaries, here they are. Anish Giri, 29 points. Is that a very impressive performance, David?
That is incredible. Also unbeaten in the prelims. That happens very, very rarely. To pit Magnus Carlsen to the post, that shows true class. Anish at the top of his game.
1 point behind him, Magnus Carlsen finishes in second. We have Ding Liren, world number 2, in third place. Pragnananda, the 16-year-old, making it through in fourth place. Wei Yi, in his very first tournament on the tour, in fifth place. Mamedyarov is making it through. That's fantastic with his entertaining style. And then David Anton in seventh place and Aryan Tari in eighth. And we are joined now by David Anton. Congratulations on making it through to the quarterfinals.
Thank you very much.
What has this final day been like, the tension and excitement for making it through?
Yeah, it was tough, so much tension. It was a very good tournament for me at the start, but these last 2 days were very hard, especially today. And okay, the last game, I guess I was just lost at some point. Jordan played a much better game and he deserved to win, but okay, at the end I managed to make that draw.
And were you thinking about the whole tournament situation then, when you felt that he was winning that game, knowing that you needed at least a draw probably?
Yeah, like before the round, draw would probably would be enough to qualify, but 100%. But as my game was just very bad, for sure I just had to fight for a draw. And yeah, at the end I probably had. I mean, I can play maybe for a win, but yeah, I thought that a draw would be enough, and it was.
And now you're going to face the world champion in the quarterfinals. What will that be like?
Well, it's going to be an exciting match for sure. I think I'm just going to try to enjoy it. Of course, I will try to win, but it's going to be hard, especially after this stage. I feel like I'm a bit tired. I'm a bit out of energy. So it's gonna be tough. But yeah, of course, I'll try my best, and I'm looking forward to play against Magnus.
And of course, it's quite late for you. You're playing from Dubai, correct?
Yeah, correct.
So quite late for you. What will you do then tomorrow to maybe get that energy back and get ready to fight against Magnus?
Yeah. Of course, it could be better if I were in Europe. Here it's now already 11, but usually I finish even at 12 in the night. So yeah, just try to sleep well, to try to wake up later than usual, so I have more energy for this late games. I think that's the idea.
Fantastic. David, Anton, congratulations again for making it through, and best of luck tomorrow.
Thank you very much. Bye.
Thanks for joining us. Bye. Let's take a look at the quarterfinals coming up for all of you. Tomorrow we have 4 very interesting matchups. Anish Giri against his second, Aryan Tari. So, Jovanka, what do you expect from that one?
Oh, that one's going to be a really cagey battle. I mean, I saw a very tense game between the pair, so I expect Anish Giri to actually go hard.
And then Pragnananda, 16-year-old against 22-year-old Wei Yi. Who's going to be a favorite?
I don't know, but that is the matchup I'm really looking forward to.
Yeah.
It's a current prodigy against a former prodigy, and Wei Yi started the event well, but Pragnananda, he's looking great. Great too. I mean, there's going to be fire on the board, lots of decisive attacking chess in that one.
And I'm expecting fire on the board as well when Mamedyarov plays against Ding. Is that correct? Those two styles coming up against each other?
Yeah, I think chess-wise, that's going to be the most exciting, personally, because Ding Liren has a very aggressive style, and, well, Mamedyarov's just a lunatic. So, so anything can happen there, and that will be a really exciting chess.
And Magnus Carlsen, he will be a favorite when he faces David Anton in the quarterfinals. We had an opening sort of quiz of the day today as well, and we have to pick a winner, Jovanka.
We do have to pick a winner, and first of all, I'd like to thank absolutely everyone for entering our competition, tweeting us, and sharing with us your very funny comments and being very honest as well. But there has to be a winner, and the winner is Elmer Johnson, who says, I love Chessable. A friend of mine was playing his first chess tournament, and we used several of the Chessable courses I had bought to prepare him. Wesley So's 1E4 courses, the Modern Benoni, and of course, Grandmaster Gambits. So, someone who bought your Ginger GM course.
Look, a very deserved winner then for the tournament, I would say. Good work there, yeah. So,
flattery pays off.
Yeah,
definitely.
Yeah. Congratulations.
Congratulations, and you can now enjoy Anish Giri's course on the Najdorf Sicilian, which must be a great course because Anish Giri is playing some fantastic chess in the Chessable Masters. And tomorrow, quarterfinals start, you guys. It's going to be exciting. So we'll see you all tomorrow, and we wish you a good day or night wherever you are in the world. Bye.